Small tricks, break it for me. Seeing this scene, Mo Luo shouted coldly. The dark power in his body surged again, and a terrifying wave swept out. Immediately, his body directly penetrated the 2 rounds of suns, attacking towards Li Zi. Get out! Li Zi yelled angrily. He bombarded out with both hands crazily, and endless energy erupted, covering this place. Boom! The two kept intertwined, erupting with terrible aftermath. The void trembled, and the earth trembled, as if the doomsday had come. A burst of thunder resounded through the heaven and earth, as if to destroy the whole world. At this moment, this area has turned into a sheer purgatory. All surrounding trees were destroyed. There are only 2 people here. Li Zi and Mo Luo. The 2 of them were on the battlefield, fighting frantically. Li Zi exuded a dazzling light all over his body. A head of long black hair fluttered in the void, like a god descending. On the other hand, Mo Luo's whole body was shining with dark light, as if a demon descended, very evil and gloomy. The 2 of them collided fiercely, showing the most powerful and fierce offensive. Die! Just at this moment, Mo Luo suddenly shouted. Then he disappeared in place strangely, and instantly came to Li Zi, waving his sharp claws and grabbing at the wolf at that time. This move is fast, precise and ruthless, with a tricky angle, and its power is extremely terrifying. Completely block all of Li Zi's escape routes, making him unavoidable. Swish! At the critical moment, Li Zi didn't panic. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, as if he had been prepared for a long time. Immediately, his figure flickered, unexpectedly dodging the opponent's fatal blow. HMPH, whoever wants to play dirty with me, you are too tender. Seeing that his blow was missed, Mo Luo snorted coldly, and continued to rush towards Li Zi. A cloud of thick blood mist bloomed from his body, releasing a terrifying evil spirit. At the same time, he waved his palm, and a sharp sword condensed from black flames appeared in his hand, carrying a monstrous killing intent, directly blasting towards Li Zi. Li Zi mobilized the holy power of spells and formed a shield to stand in front of him. Bang! The 2 energies were fighting crazily, and there was no feeling of being at a disadvantage in the slightest. Soon Mo Luo also felt something was wrong. He stared at Li Zi and said coldly, "It's useless, you can't stop my attack at all." F***K me. Mo Luo roared. His eyes were filled with bloodthirsty yellow light. The sharp blade in his hand was burning with raging black flames, releasing a breath that burned the sky. "It's you who died." Just at this critical moment, Li Zi's cold voice reached the ears of the 2. In an instant, a radiant golden lightsaber pierced through the void, and slashed directly at Mo Luo's body with lightning speed. Click! With the crisp bone-cracking sound, Mo Luo trembled, and a stream of blood spattered out. Mo Luo let out a piercing cry. He clutched the wound of his severed arm, with a hideous and distorted expression on his face, his eyes staring wide open at the void. An unbelievable look. Boom! Immediately afterwards, the void exploded. Li Zi's figure emerged. How? How can you crack my attack? Mo Luo looked at Li Zi with an unbelievable look on his face. This time he used the secret technique to increase his own strength several times. Coupled with the powerful energy he just released, it stands to reason that the opponent cannot resist it at all. In the end, Li Zi still broke his attack. This made him a little unbelievable. "It's because you are too arrogant." Li Zi snorted coldly, and threw his fist at Mo Luo. Mo Luo was blasted out on the spot. He fell to the ground. Li Zi took the opportunity to rush over, and he stepped on Mo Luo's body. Pissed. Mo Luo's throat sweetened, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. "You lost. Today is your death day." Li Zi looked at Mo Luo with a cold expression and said indifferently. And Mo Luo's expression was extremely ugly, his eyes glowed with a gloomy coldness. "Li Zi, do you really dare to kill me? Don't forget what is standing behind us?" Mo Luo looked at Li Zi and shouted coldly. "If I kill you, I will leave temporarily. When I come back, it will be the day when your demon clan will be wiped out." Li Zi said indifferently, and he punched the opponent's head directly. When Mo Luo heard this, panic immediately appeared on his face. This is because he is afraid. If the other party really dares to do this, then the demon clan will be completely wiped out in the long river of time. Those who didn't come thought about it, so he immediately pretended to be pitiful. "Please let me go. I was dazzled by the killing just now. I hope you can let me go." Mo Luo's words were very sincere. If it were someone else's, they would probably soften their hearts. But Li Zi didn't think so. Instead, there was an inexplicable smile on the corner of his mouth. Boom. Before the other party really reacted, he condensed the sword of Emperor Weishan, and in the next instant, he decisively wiped out the other party completely. Because it is mixed with magic, even if the opponent has an immortal body, he will not be able to survive under the bombardment of this huge and powerful force. It is also because of this that the strong of the Japanese demon clan fell here. Li Zi didn't look at him too much, but quickly left here towards the rear. Although his physical strength is still capable of fighting again, after the previous few battles, at the moment has made him feel extremely physically and mentally exhausted, as if he could fall asleep anytime, anywhere. But fortunately, his overall willpower is very strong, otherwise, it might be extremely difficult to persevere until this point. Soon after, Li Zi returned to the realm of God, and the moment he just stepped in, he looked inward and found that Stephen and others were anxiously waiting for him. As if he was the most dazzling dawn. Li, you worry me so much, are you seriously injured? At this time, the witch who saw this scene could no longer hide the sadness in her heart, and immediately ran towards Li Zi, hugged Li Zi tightly, like a piece of jade, and let go reluctantly, because it is very clear that if he lets go, this man will probably fall directly. This was the last thing she wanted to see. Others wanted to speak, but when they also saw this scene, they subconsciously did not speak. After all, the opponent is tired enough. Let me rest first. Li Zi forced a smile, patted her head, and then walked towards the room where she was. After seeing it, everyone did not choose to stop it. Instead, the witch carefully supported him and walked forward. 2 days later, the sun shines on the earth, reflecting in every corner of the domain of gods, and the temperature is gradually becoming warmer. And in a room, Li Zi slowly opened his eyes and found that it was the ceiling, and then looked at the sleeping witch next to him. Standing up step by step, taking a deep breath, it seems that this battle is somewhat dangerous. Turning his eyes to the outside, the so-called lazy sunlight shone in, and his body felt a little warmer. Seemingly noticing Li Zi's awakening, the sleeping witch gradually opened her eyes. You're awake, then I'll bring you some breakfast. No need for now, I'm not hungry yet. Li Zi grabbed her tightly. This time the battle was pretty good overall, and I didn't regret letting you follow up before, otherwise it would be really bad luck. He looked at the other person's face very seriously. If you let me go, I can still help you, can't I? The witch also stared at the other party's face seriously and said, no, the nature is different. In short, it is very dangerous there. Don't you see that I also suffered such a serious injury? Speaking of this, Li Zi said a little pretending to be angry. It seems that he wants to set an example and tell the other party the degree of danger this time. After hearing this, the witch was thoughtful, and did not refute the other party. Anyway, the other party was very lucky to be able to come back safely. It was also because of this that she didn't think too much about this matter. By the way, how are Stephen and the others doing? Are they not seriously injured? At this time, Li Zi suddenly asked the witch. After all, he chose to end the queen. In fact, in a real sense, Stephen and Bliss had already suffered very deep injuries at that time, and they were almost passed out. It was precisely because of this that he chose to stay, and then let the other two leave first. If not, the risk factor would be greatly increased if the other party stayed there. Therefore, no matter what the reason is, these two people must leave first. That's not the case. After they came back, the old patriarch had completely settled them down. After a short period of time and the supply of those sources of strength, they are fine right now. The witch shook her head, and briefly described the general process. Li Zi nodded when he heard the words. In this case, I have to go to the old patriarch, and I still need to explain something. Perhaps it was because of the demon clan, or the other party had the original Mephisto and the so-called strong demon, so he had to choose to tell the other party. It was the so-called Mara that was enough to annihilate their entire army. The strength is even more terrifying to the extreme. It was also because of this that he was worried in his heart. Then I'll go with you. The witch simply packed up her things in the past. After Li Zi heard this, he also nodded and did not refute. After all, this is not going to the demon race. So letting her follow would not have much impact. Soon, led by the witch, the two of Li Zi came to the hall step by step. After entering, it was directly found that the old patriarch and others were discussing something by themselves. Li, you finally woke up, is there anything wrong? The moment the old patriarch saw Li Zi, he finally let go of his heart hanging day and night, because if the other party did anything else, would he be guilty for the rest of his life? After all, he asked Stephen to call her over. Fortunately, things did not develop in a bad direction, which is a good result. Not yet, but what I'm going to tell you next is very important. Li Zi didn't intend to waste time. After all, he already knew a lot about the demon clan. Woolen cloth. If the other party doesn't have a strong method, I'm afraid this matter will continue to ferment. And the most important thing is that if the demon clan launches an attack one day, it will definitely be an irresistible ending for the angel clan. Because of this, the current situation is very important. In addition, he himself has to create magic, so that in order to deal with the so-called mysterious person in a few months, he will definitely not have so much time to come out to help the angel family. Because of this, the difficulties faced by the angel family will definitely be much more difficult than imagined. Think here. He directly told the other party the general situation. After listening to Li Zi's words, the old patriarch also immediately fell into deep thought. After all, the so-called demon clan is also a very troublesome existence. Furthermore, although Li Zi can choose to help the angel clan in the end, the other party also has important tasks, and it is impossible to come here to help anytime and anywhere. If the demon clan chooses to come and attack at a critical moment, their angel clan, the family, will be completely broken. And it belongs to the kind that can withstand the opponent's strong offensive without the ability. I understand what you mean, but I want to ask the Dark Witch to stay here for a while. Do you think it's okay? At this time, the old patriarch asked directly, and cast his eyes on the other party. His eyes are full of hope. Even if Li Zi is not here, I believe that with the strength of the Dark Witch, he should have the power to fight. Hearing this, Li Zi shook her head. You have to ask her about this. I can't decide. After hearing this, the Dark Witch shook her head. I prefer to stay by Li's side and not go anywhere. It seems that she has already regarded the other party as the best companion. No matter what happens, she will continue to follow the other party's side. Even though the other party had no interest in her in that regard, in contrast, she still didn't want to stay here. Since that's the case, well, I can't force this point. Anyway, thank you this time, otherwise our angel clan will suffer. The old patriarch quickly recovered his demeanor, not as sad as before. In fact, in a real sense, Li Zi and others have helped him enough. If he asks the other party for this and that, the result will not be much better. Okay, you guys should improve during this time. The Demon King and Mo Luo on the other side are already dead, and the remaining original Mephisto has also been seriously injured. I believe they won't come here for a long time. After a brief explanation, Li Zi left here with Wanda and the others. After all, there are still many things to do when I go back, so I can't stay here any longer. And finally, Steven also left, although he also wanted to stay and help, but what Li Zi said was right. The mysterious man after a few uses was even more difficult to deal with than the so-called demons. So, let's go back and talk about B first. After returning to Westview Town, this place has become extremely peaceful, without any worries at all, as if it is full of a very memorable place. The sun is also shining on the earth, and the entire sky reflected becomes extremely warm. I'm finally back. I'm really exhausted these days. The witch sat on the sofa and lay down directly, completely losing her previous dignified appearance. It doesn't seem to be necessary overall. Li, what are you going to do next? At this time, the Dark Witch came to Li Zi's side and asked directly. The appearance of the mysterious person before was already enough of a headache. If the other party's so-called demons also came to interfere, wouldn't the danger be greatly increased? How the hell is this good? That's right. What she said is right. Even though you said you killed the opponents and those strong men, what if they come again one day? After the witch heard it, she quickly echoed what the Dark Witch said, and it was not a small problem to compare it to that matter. It is precisely because of this that they are so worried. I don't know about this for the time being, but we need to understand a truth. If the other party comes, we can directly kill them completely. In this way, we can save a lot of trouble. Li Zi said calmly. You're crazy. Listening to Li Zi's words, the witch and the Dark Witch suddenly exclaimed. It's okay if you have to deal with a few tasks, but if they all come over, wouldn't you be at a disadvantage? There may even be a scene where two hands are hard to beat 4 punches. Have you forgotten how powerful the opponent's strength is? You are not the opponents at all, and, with our strength, we can't do that at all. At this moment, the witch even wanted to rush up and grab Li Zi's neck to question. Has this guy lost his head? How dare they say such a thing? How can they believe it? After all, for those demons, witches and dark witches actually have a lot of fear in their hearts. Because their strength is too strong, it is simply not something that ordinary people can resist. Just like the witch in front of me, although she is a witch with dark magic, she still feels deeply disturbed. Because that kind of gap is too big, it cannot be made up by quantity at all. Not to mention that the number of opponents far exceeds them, and their strength is unmatched. Such an enemy, as long as you encounter it for a while, you must find a way to evacuate first. Otherwise, there is no doubt that you will die. This is what the two of them feel in their hearts now. They are indeed a little afraid of those demons. Not only because of the opponent's strength, but also because of the mysterious means, it feels like everything is under control. But Li Zi's attitude shocked both the witch and the dark witch. For witches and dark witches, they think they know Li Zi's character well. That is calm, sophisticated, cautious, definitely a qualified leader, and an excellent magician. But now, this character has disappeared. Instead, there was an arrogant and unruly attitude. This made them completely confused. What happened to Li Zi? Could it be that what happened this time out? Perhaps this is the only explanation. Thinking, the two looked at Li Zi. In short, let's rest for a while. If the demons come, we should have an emergency measure, right? Li Zi also regained his composure at this moment, and continued to speak. Immediately, he also walked towards his room, ready to wash up and change a set of clothes. It is, after all, to go in and start creating magic. It's not too late now. Especially when it comes to creating magic or speeding things up. Definitely, before going in, he didn't forget to explain to the two about practicing dark magic. Soon, he came to the study. This time he did not choose to cast magic on the door. As long as that energy doesn't fluctuate too much, I believe it won't have much impact. Without wasting any time, Li Zi just waved his hands, and the so-called creative magic suddenly appeared. It's like magical magic. There is not much difference from before. It's just that it is covered with a lot of brilliance, and those dazzling rays of light are all wrapped in this energy. Immediately afterwards, Li Zi directly cast Endless Black Aura. With a light swipe, a rune appeared directly on it. And at this moment, those runes suddenly burst out with extremely thick light. Afterwards, it spreads directly towards it. In the end, Li Zi was enveloped. And with the flickering of that light, the whole room was instantly flooded by this light. I don't know how long it has passed. Those runes began to undergo new changes, and eventually evolved into a wave of extremely powerful energy, hovering in midair. Seeing this scene, Li Zi was overjoyed. It seems that the previous efforts were not in vain. After all, it is creating magic. If the previous efforts were in vain, wouldn't it be a long time to be disappointed? Time is also passing by a little bit. In the next time. In addition to continuing to practice and create magic, Li Zi has a romantic bath with the witch from time to time. It can be said that he is a real winner in life. And most importantly, they didn't ignore the so-called dark magic to practice because of this. With the help of the dark witch, Wanda has a relative grasp of those so-called dark forces, and it can be said that she is more proficient than before. Because of this, they didn't waste too much time. I believe this is also a pretty good choice for Li Zi. In the next time, you need to continue to practice slowly like this, don't think about other things. Li Zi spoke words slowly to the two of them. Because in the real sense, there is not much time left before the deadline of 2 or 3 months, and because of this, the next practice can be said to be very important. If you don't have a very good rest state, it will be quite difficult to really deal with this matter when the time comes. Okay. Let's remember, let's work harder in the next period of time. I'm sure we can do it, but what about the demon clan? At this time, Wanda still said a little uneasy. Hearing this, Li Zi immediately said, "Don't worry about this. I believe Steven has already known the specific information in advance, and he will come to inform us when the time comes. Think about it too." After hearing this, Wanda immediately nodded heavily and did not continue to ask. As time goes by little, whether it's Li Zi's creation magic, or the dark magic taught to Wanda by the dark witch, there's a very noticeable big boost between the two. I believe that it won't be long before the so-called mysterious person will be very surprised, or it may be a special kind of accident. Where are you going to play today? After a few days, Li Zi also made specific arrangements for the matter at hand. Definitely, while dealing with these matters, he never forgot to go out to relax. So today I just saw that the sun was very sunny, and I wanted to ask the witch to go out together. But the witch's answer next surprised him very much. "No, we need to continue practicing dark magic at home," the witch said with a serious face. But when Li Zi looked at the dark witch, the other party put on a helpless expression, as if even she didn't know what happened. "Oh, hurry up. I have to master all these dark magics, Otherwise the time is coming, and I will be sad if I can't help you by then. Wanda did not hide her thoughts at all, but directly told the other party all her thoughts. Li Zi nodded quickly after hearing this. After simply packing up his things, he bid farewell to the two of them, and Li Zi walked out alone. Definitely. He didn't leave too far, but chose to hang around those so-called New York. After all, it is also a very good thing to come here to have a look. Not only can you increase your knowledge, but you can also enjoy delicious food, which can be said to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. It's just that such delicacies are not easy to eat. Therefore, Li Zi is also very careful to avoid danger. But fortunately, the road was uneventful, except for the occasional encounter with some unsightly people, but they were all easily resolved by him. In this way, more than half an hour later, finally finished shopping. Li Zi stayed on the edge of a bridge, looking into the distance. At this moment, he has already walked out of the urban area, and is about a few kilometers away from the suburbs. As for why he stopped walking forward, it was because he no longer had any interest in continuing to go shopping. Therefore, Li Zi is going to return, find a hotel to stay, and start the sightseeing mode again tomorrow. Just suddenly, Li Zi's eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked up at a tall building in the distance. In that tall building, he sensed a powerful aura, and it seemed to be directed at him. If the guess is correct, that breath should belong to the existence of the killer. But what is very strange is that the aura of the killer is not so much an assassin, but an ordinary person. Could it be that the killer's strength in this world is really so weak? Thinking of this, a faint sense of loss suddenly surged in Li Zi's heart. Originally, he thought that although his strength was much lower than that of people in this world, he could definitely be regarded as an extraordinary person. But I didn't expect that there was someone in this world who could match him, or even be stronger. It seems that I have to work hard to cultivate, otherwise, I'm afraid I will be killed instantly in this world. Muttering to himself, Li Zi also rushed towards the tall buildings in the distance. Well, this guy is pretty fast. In the distance, a man standing on the top of a tall building couldn't help raising his brows when he saw that Li Zi had found him in a short period of time. However, a cruel smile soon appeared on the corner of his mouth. Hey, since you have found my trace, then you can't even think about surviving. The man snorted coldly, and then waved his arms around suddenly. In an instant, the air around him seemed to turn into a red liquid in an instant. Immediately afterwards, a strong heat stream gushed out from the red liquid. In the end, it turned into a huge spark, blooming in the sky. Everything happened extremely quickly, only between calcium carbide sparks, and by the time Li Zi arrived here, the red liquid had already disappeared. Only the hot feeling left in the air told Li Zi that what happened just now was not an illusion. How so? Li Zi frowned, looking around, trying to find traces of those red liquids. However, he searched all around, but still found nothing. Hee, kid, it's useless. These red liquids are not ordinary, they are the essence of blood. As long as it touches your skin, you will immediately become a blood man, and will continue to burn until you are completely burned by these blood flames. At this time, a joking voice sounded, and an old man in white clothes and a hood slowly appeared in Li Zi's sight. Who are you? Li Zi stared at each other vigilantly. The old man looked quite old, but his eyes were shining brightly, showing that the other party was not a weakling, but a killer. Haha, that's a good question. My name is Jess. Jess looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, then pointed at Li Zi and said, but before that, I need to let you try it first. How does it taste like burning blood? After all, regardless of Li Zi's reaction, he stretched out his fingers and got up. With the movement of his hands, a group of scarlet blood mist suddenly appeared under Li Zi's feet. What happened? Li Zi frowned slightly, trying to struggle hard. But the blood mist was very sticky. No matter how he tried to break free, he still couldn't break free. And the blood mist gradually expanded under Li Zi's struggle, and finally enveloped the front of his body. Is this the blood flame? It really hurts. Li Zi murmured in a low voice, but persisted through gritted teeth. At this time, the blood mist began to swell rapidly. In the end, a blooming bright red rose is formed. And Li Zi is that delicate red rose. Hey, just stay in this rose obediently and taste its taste slowly. Jess sneered, then turned around and wanted to leave. However, he just took a step, but stopped suddenly. Because he found that behind him at some point, a strange man had appeared, and it was the Li Zi from just now. You, how could you? Jess' pupils shrank sharply, and he asked in shock. Because, he didn't see clearly how this man appeared. Who sent you here? Li Zi looked at Jess and said indifferently, "If you don't tell the truth, I will let you die a miserable death." "Who are you?" Jess had a puzzled expression on his face, and said in a deep voice, "I advise you not to meddle in your own business, otherwise, I guarantee you will regret it." "Tisk tisk, threatening me?" Li Zi sneered, "Not only will I regret it, but I will also destroy your master and let your master know how powerful I am." When Jess heard this, his eyes were filled with rage. "Bastard, I'll fight with you." As soon as the voice fell, he rushed over directly. However, Li Zi just glanced at him lightly, which made Jess stop there stiffly. Pissed. With just one glance, Jess slumped on the ground like a deflated ball, looking sluggish. At the same time, his forehead also oozes out. Because of at the moment, he felt icy cold all over his body, as if he was in the 12th lunar month of winter. The coldness almost made him suffocate. What kind of strength is this person, and why is he so terrifying? Jess' heart was beating wildly, and he couldn't even imagine what kind of strength this man in front of him possessed. You know, even in the mysterious organization, he is considered to be a strong person in the forefront. However, in front of this person in front of him, he has no power to resist. Now, do you believe it? Li Zi looked down at Jess, who was limp on the ground, and said in a cold tone, "Say it quickly, or I will make your life worse than death." Okay, I say." Jess nodded with difficulty, and quickly agreed, for fear of offending Li Zi. Soon, everything was explained directly to the convenience. After Li Zi learned about it, he suddenly realized, and learned from the other party that the other party was from Jin Bing's subordinates. "And I have noticed him since half a month ago, but it is a pity that he was in the realm of the gods at that time. Because of this, the other party could not find him. Now that he came back, he naturally came to the door." "Mysterious organization?" Li Zi frowned slightly. "Is this the one you just established?" "That's right, we have just been established, but our organization is still at the stage of 3 people. Even so, except for me, the strength of the other 2 people is very terrifying, and I believe that it will not be long before your message will spread into the computer over there, and someone will come to assassinate you." Jess didn't dare to hide anything. He very much believed that if this person killed him, he would definitely be a scumbag, the kind that would show no mercy at all. It was precisely because of this that he did not dare to offend too much. Li Zi couldn't help laughing out loud when he heard the words, "Hee, you want to assassinate me?" "That's right." Jess nodded and said, "Their power is very large. If they find your trace, they will definitely send someone to assassinate you. By then, you will have nowhere to hide." "Since that's the case," Li Zi looked at the man in front of him lightly, "then let's kill you." "What?" Jess' face changed suddenly, and he said, "You want to kill me? Otherwise?" Li Zi looked at the man in front of him indifferently. "Do I still need to keep you alive? Besides, do you think I'd be foolish enough to wait for someone from the other party to come over and assassinate me?" Li Zi sneered again and again, and was about to make a move, when the other party jumped up immediately. His whole body was like a violent gust of wind, and he ran towards the rear at high speed without any hesitation. When Li Zi saw this scene, the corner of his mouth raised an arc, as if he didn't take the other party seriously at all. Similarly, the endless black aura wrapped around him, covering almost the entire range, and the terrifying aura that diffused swept across the entire surrounding in an instant. Jess just ran 10 meters away when he felt that he was enveloped in it. He was so frightened that he was sweating all over, and he almost fell to his knees. Too strong. He roared crazily in his heart. This aura was simply stronger than that person at the airport before. How can it be? The other party is obviously only a young man in his 20s, but he actually possesses such a powerful aura. This is simply too unbelievable, horrible. Jace paled. He knew that he was in big trouble, and the opponent's strength was definitely far beyond his expectations. Escape. A thought came to his mind, and he ran back desperately. Li Zi stood where he was, narrowing his eyes slightly, and a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Run? Boom. He lifted his foot and kicked it randomly to a certain position. In an instant, the originally flat road suddenly exploded, flames shot into the sky, smoke billowed, and the entire road was instantly destroyed. This was a trap specially set up by Li Zi. After all, to deal with people like Jess, it is impossible to use ordinary methods. In the end, Jace's body was dumped directly on a roadside somewhere. After doing all this, Li Zi turned and left. He doesn't care how these things ferment. After all, I came out to enjoy myself today. After that, there was no follow-up trouble. Li Zi bought the ingredients and was about to go back. but suddenly found that there was a sudden tremor in the void. Although it doesn't have much impact on ordinary people, Li Zi is different. He can perceive the existence of the other party very clearly. Could it be someone from the demon clan again? It's no wonder he thinks this way. After all, this kind of thing has already been learned from the past, that is, the arrival of Mephisto before, otherwise he wouldn't think of it. No, you still have to go and see. If something happens, this New York City will be ruined. There was no way, for the sake of safety, he still decided to go and see for himself to find out what happened. Soon, he came to the place where the void was fluctuating, and he looked and found that there seemed to be a faint mirror, as if it was connected with reality and illusion. What exactly is going on? Don't allow him to think too much. Boom. An extremely powerful energy vortex slowly opened from inside, like a dark bottomless pit, which made people feel trembling. Is this a new demon race? Li Zi frowned slightly, and couldn't help feeling a little puzzled, but also with a trace of curiosity. No, go and have a look. Really unable to bear the curiosity in his heart, Li Zi didn't say any nonsense, and rushed towards the inside. In just an instant, he came directly to the top of the void and looked down from above. There, it is an extremely huge amounts of empty area, not even a single building. And in the center, a black vortex is slowly forming. Li Zi's eyes fell on the vortex, and he could faintly hear low growls and hisses. What is this? However, suddenly, an extremely violent giant climbed out from inside. It's as if it was really resurrected from the ground. The giant seemed to have seen Li Zi in the sky, and slapped heavily in this direction. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Li Zi didn't hesitate, and immediately made an effective dodge to the side. He knew very well that if he was hit by the opponent's slap, he would probably suffer heavy injuries even if he was not dead. Because of this, he did not dare to slack off. No one knows what kind of monster they are about to face. Since you're here, let's kill you first. After all, he directly took out the sword of Emperor Weishan, and slammed heavily towards the opponent. An extremely powerful sword energy pierced the sky, as if piercing through the sky and the earth. With a very powerful explosion sound, it landed directly on the so-called giant's head. Boom. A huge amounts of roars suddenly burst open. Immediately afterwards, the giant fell apart directly. However, Li Zi did not show a happy expression because of the success of his attack. Instead, he frowned deeply. It's not right. This giant seems to have been dealt with by himself, but the other party is just an illusion? Damn it, this guy is actually playing with mental attacks. Li Zi cursed and had to be more vigilant. The opponent obviously knew how powerful he was, so he deliberately chose to transform into a giant in an attempt to confuse his own judgment and take the opportunity to sneak attack him. However, the opponent obviously missed his own strength. Li Zi snorted coldly, and a strong murderous intent burst out of his eyes. I'll let you see my real strength, hum. A dazzling golden light suddenly bloomed from his body, like a sun, dazzling. At the same time, his skin gradually became transparent, like glass, crystal clear. Li Zi's eyes narrowed slightly, and he felt the surging power in his body surging, as if it would never end. Drink. He raised his head to the sky and let out a long cry. He rose up from the ground, and rushed towards the giant. His fist was filled with overwhelming coercion. He waved his fist, and his fist screamed, as if a thunderbolt had descended into the world, tearing up the air and smashing down hard. Boom. A deafening sound suddenly resounded through the sky, and then, the giant that had been split in half gathered together again and rushed towards Li Zi. Boom. Li Zi's face was indifferent, and he still maintained the posture of waving his fists, but the giant was unable to move an inch, and was directly imprisoned by an inexplicable force, unable to break free at all. Destroy me. A cold light flashed in Li Zi's eyes, and his right leg swept out. The terrifying force directly kicked the giant hundreds of feet away, hitting the wall, smashing a wall in an instant. What's this? Li Zi was a little startled, because just after the giant was repelled by him, the wall at that place was healing quickly, as if it hadn't been hurt at all. This surprised Li Zi a little. And at this time, the giant was killed again. Without fear, Li Zi struck out again, directly slapped him, and instantly sent him flying, before continuing to chase him away. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions sounded, and the whole New York was shaking, as if it was about to collapse. And as the battle became more and more intense, the surrounding ground began to crack, and countless rocks fell from the sky, smashing on the ground, setting off billowing smoke and dust. Li Zi's complexion gradually became ugly, because the giant seemed endless, and its strength was also terrifying, Even if he tried his best, he still couldn't defeat him. Damn. What the hell is this? Li Zi gritted his teeth. This guy is like an unbeatable Xiaoqiang. No matter how he fights, he will always be able to gather again. No, it's definitely not an option to spend it like this. Li Zi mused to himself. The other party was obviously tireless, not to mention that he didn't have enough strength to persevere to the end. And just now, he felt that his physical strength had disappeared a lot. In addition, he hadn't rested well during this period of time, and he was already a little tired at the moment. Thinking of this, he jumped directly into the air, and then looked down at the scene below from a high altitude. So it's underground? I saw below, a huge amounts of passage appeared under my feet. And the ground he bombarded just now is recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Ah. A cruel smile was drawn on the corner of Li Zi's mouth, and then he raised his arms and opened them suddenly. Let's see what you do now. He waved his hands, and suddenly, a violent wind raged, and countless hurricanes swept away in all directions under his control. In an instant, the ground that was being restored collapsed again, and cracks continued to spread out, like spider webs, densely packed, all over the entire space. Li Zi snorted coldly, then jumped straight into the underground minister with a flash of his body. Haha, stupid mortal, do you think you can escape like this? Suddenly, a mocking voice came, followed by a figure with huge amounts of descending from the sky, suppressing Li Zi. Presented. The giant grabbed Li Zi's shoulder and swung it hard, about to throw him out. Hee, you want to throw me out? No way. Li Zi sneered, and directly punched the giant's chest, sending him flying. Boom. The giant fell to the ground and made a loud noise, but before Li Zi could make a move, an eerie aura filled the air. His pupils shrank slightly, and the hairs all over his body stood up. Because he noticed that this guy actually stood up again. What the hell are you? Li Zi asked a little angrily. HMPH, ignorant mortals, you lowly race, are you still wishing to fight us? The giant laughed jokingly and said, well, I will give you a chance to live. If you are willing to submit to me and be my slave, I will spare your life. Hearing this, Li Zi couldn't help but sneer. Although I am not as strong as you, I would rather die than surrender. Court death. The giant was furious, and then charged directly towards Li Zi, extremely fast. Overreach. Li Zi snorted coldly, then threw out both fists and slammed hard at the giant. Bang bang bang. The two collided, and Li Zi and the giant took a few steps back. Oh. Is this your power? Li Zi was a little surprised that the strength of his body was similar to his, or even slightly better. This made the corner of his mouth curl up. This guy is really difficult to deal with, but this little power can scare him away. Do you think you are the only one with power? Today, I will show you what real power is. Boom. In an instant, the blood in Li Zi's whole body boiled, and incomparably violent power was released from his muscles and bones. Boom. A majestic coercion permeated from his body. What? The giant's pupils narrowed slightly, revealing an expression of disbelief. He could clearly sense that Li Zi's power was being crazily improved at this moment, reaching an unprecedented level. Your body actually contains such potential. A body of this level, even in the illusory space, is probably a monster that is rare in 10,000 years. If I devour you, I will definitely get infinite evolution. The giant's face became ferocious, he roared, and rushed towards Li Zi. HMPH, it's pretty beautiful to think about. Li Zi sneered, he moved his fists together, and slammed into the giant's abdomen. Pissed. The giant spat out a big mouthful of blood, and was sent flying by Li Long's punch. Damn, how could you have such terrifying power? The giant's eyes were full of horror and disbelief. Li Zi ignored him, turned around and charged towards the ground. Boom. It was another incomparably majestic whip kick, which abruptly knocked the opponent into the air, like a kite with a broken string, without any bells and whistles at all. Everything around, accompanied by the coercion of this energy, split and collapsed instantly, as if there was no sign of it. And Li Zi also took the opportunity to go deep into the ground. Boom. Suddenly, a huge amount of tentacles swept towards Li Zi. Li Zi reacted quickly and dodged in an instant, then looked up, only to find that it was a giant with two heads. Human, I didn't expect you to be smart enough to guess my real body. The giant's body squirmed slowly, and in the blink of an eye he returned to a normal human appearance, but his eyes still glowed scarlet, which was creepy. Li Zi frowned. You are the master of this world? The giant sneered. Not bad. In that case, let's send you on your way. Ha ha ha. Do you think this is the end? You are so naive. As he spoke, he suddenly raised his right hand, a dark green flame ignited, and then he slapped Li Zi with his palm. Hula. The fire was so intense that it instantly covered the surrounding hundreds of meters, burning everything to death. Small tricks. Li Zi sneered, and he raised his head suddenly, with a golden glow in his eyes. Buzz. A faint ripple rippled, and the huge group of flames actually stagnated in midair. In that case, let's send you on your way. Ha ha ha. Do you think this is the end? You are so naive. As he spoke, he suddenly raised his right hand, a dark green flame ignited, and then he slapped Li Zi with his palm. Hula. The fire was so intense that it instantly covered a range of hundreds of meters around it, burning everything to death. Small tricks. Li Zi sneered, and he raised his head suddenly, with a golden glow in his eyes. Buzz. A faint ripple rippled, and the huge group of flames actually stagnated in midair. At the same time, a thunderbolt exploded out of thin air. Boom. A huge and incomparable thunder suddenly descended and struck the flame in an instant. Huh. This. The giant stared wide-eyed, watching this scene in disbelief. Li Zi took advantage of this opportunity to charge directly, and then punched the giant's chest fiercely. Click. The giant's chest was sunken directly, and several ribs were even broken. Then, Li Zi kicked him dozens of meters away with another whip kick. Roar. The giant roared angrily, it struggled to get up, its eyes were red, staring at Li Zi, eyes full of killing intent. Damn it. Why is this guy so strong? The giant gritted his teeth and looked at Li Zi with resentment in his eyes, wishing he could tear her into pieces. Damn it. I must not lose to a lowly human being, otherwise, where would my face be? The giant roared upwards, and then streams of blue mist began to surge out of his body constantly. I'm going to tear you apart, I'm going to eat your soul. His tone was icy cold, with a ferocious taste. What's the matter with this fellow? Doesn't he know what it is to be afraid? Forget it. Let's talk about it first. There was a cruel smile on the corner of Li Zi's mouth. Boom. In an instant, his figure was like a ghost, rushing straight away. Ha ha ha, ants. I am a great illusory god, you will never kill me. The giant laughed loudly, and then waved his claws to face him. Clang clang. There was a sound of fierce confrontation, and the two fought inseparably. Boom. Suddenly, Li Zi's attack became extremely violent, and his moves became more fierce and domineering, as if he wanted to destroy everything. The giant finally couldn't resist, and finally let out a miserable howl, and flew out backwards. How can this be? The giant looked so surprised that he couldn't believe his eyes. I actually lost to a tiny human? Snort. Li Zi snorted coldly, stepped on his feet, and his body disappeared instantly like lightning. How can it be? The giant's eyes were full of shock. He had tried his best just now, but he couldn't even beat that tiny human? Before he could really react. Whoosh, in the next second, Li Zi appeared in front of the giant in an instant, punched down, and hit the giant's neck fiercely. Click. The sound of bones breaking came out. Ah. The giant screamed horribly. He covered his neck and howled constantly, but his body couldn't stand upright. Poof. In the next second, the giant fell to his knees, trembling all over. How? How is it possible? The giant turned his head to look at Li Zi with difficulty. He was unwilling to be defeated like this. Although he was weak, he was once the king of one side, the king of the entire void. How could he be defeated by a single person? But the fact is in front of him, he has already lost. I don't accept it, you human being can beat me. The giant roared crazily, trying to vent the anger in his heart. Because you are so useless that you can't even hurt a single hair on me. Li Zi shook his head with a look of disdain in his eyes. You wanna die? Hearing Li Zi's words, the giant ran away completely. Boom. In the next second, a dark dragon appeared around Li Zi, biting towards him. HMPH, small tricks, vulnerable to a single blow. Li Zi smiled contemptuously. Swish swish swish. I saw that his figure was erratic, and his speed was extremely fast, directly dodging the attack of this dark dragon. In the next second, he came to the back of the giant and directly punched the giant on the shoulder. Boom. The giant shook violently and almost fell to the ground. No. Impossible? The giant said in disbelief. Nothing is impossible, because your strength is really weak. Li Zi snorted coldly, tapped his toes to the ground, then jumped up, and punched the giant on the cheek heavily. Boom. A crisp and pleasant sound came out. The giant's face was directly crushed by Li Zi, and blood flowed all over the ground. Moreover, the giant's eyes were full of shock and bewilderment, as if he had never thought that he would lose to such an ant. You. Who are you? The giant's pupils were full of doubts, and he felt that the human being in front of him seemed very strange and terrifying. Li Zi grinned when he heard the words, "Who am I?" "When you get to the underworld, ask Hades." The voice fell, and then he stomped on the giant's head. But no one can imagine. However, the giant's body became unreal, and the entire huge body disappeared. Immediately afterwards, the entire sky reflected the ferocious scarlet face of the entire giant. It seems to be engraved on it, revealing a very strange and terrifying breath all the time. This guy is really weird. Li Zi frowned and muttered to himself. Boom. In the next second, an incomparably terrifying and eerie aura swept over, making people shudder. Not good, dangerous. Feeling this breath, Ji's expression changed. Immediately, he used his posture to retreat quickly. Boom. At this moment, a terrifying beam of light suddenly pierced towards Li Zi. This is a terrifying lightsaber that is several tens of feet long, and it cuts down with unparalleled power. Li Zi shouted solemnly. He urged all the power in his body to gather on his right arm, and punched the lightsaber fiercely. Boom. In an instant, Li Zi's body was shaken back again and again, his face extremely solemn. How so? Li Zi's eyes were dull, and he muttered to himself, with a look of disbelief in his eyes. You know, the energy just now used at least 50% of his power. But even so, he was still shocked by the opponent. How can this be? Hee, stupid human, I said you can't kill me. The giant grinned grimly. The giant rushed towards Li Zi again. After returning to the apartment, Li Zi opened the door just in time to find that the two witches were not there. After placing the ingredients separately, he checked each room briefly, but still did not find the two witches. Strange. Where are you going? This made Li Zi feel extremely confused. After all, if the other party wants to go out, they will definitely leave some small notes or something. But despite saying this, Li Zi didn't find anything left by them inside. It can even be said that there is not even a note. What the hell is going on here? Forget it, I'd better make something for them, otherwise I must be hungry. Li Zi shook his head to himself. He didn't get too entangled in this kind of matter. He knew the two characters very well. If there is something to be dealt with when going out, there will definitely be some things left in the room. Since there is nothing inside, it is very likely that the other party will come back soon. As time passed, Li Zi quickly sorted out all the so-called ingredients in a short time. The next step is to start the fire and cook. There is no more action, and when you get started, practice makes perfect. At the moment, the uninhabited coast outside. The two witches were helping each other, and they didn't waste enough time either. Instead, I chose to come to this location to test the extent of the dark magic I learned recently. But if there is no accident, they learn dark magic very quickly. After all, for them, they are extremely powerful magicians. In addition, originally it is very suitable for the so-called dark divine book, and because of this, they can master it faster and improve more. And in the process of testing dark magic this time, they still have new discoveries. First of all, they discovered that although these dark magics were slightly different from the ones they used, they were actually all common. It's just because they use all the magic recorded in the Dark God book, and they haven't learned it, so there will be some slight differences. However, there is no way to do this. After all, the Dark Divine book has disappeared for too long. Except for a few books that were found, the rest have completely disappeared. But even so, dark magic still exists all over the world, and it is precisely because of this that they know the reason for testing dark magic this time. That is, they want to pass this test to confirm what level their ability has reached. Now if the two of them fight together, the probability of completing the task is definitely around 50%. In this case, their goal is basically accomplished. However, at that time, it's finally done. Looking at the sumptuous lunch on the table, Li Zi took a deep breath with a smile on his face. After working for a long time, I finally sorted out all these so-called ingredients. Right now, all you need to do is wait for the other two to come back, and then you can eat directly. Just being idle and bored, Li Zi came directly to the sofa. Not long after sitting down, there was a knock on the door. I hope it's not Steven. Li Zi got up and came to the door, opened it slowly, looked around, and saw two witches staring at him in surprise. Fortunately, it's not Steven. Li, When did you come back? Wanda seemed very surprised, and asked immediately. Not long ago. You must have been starving. Hurry up and eat, I have already prepared it. After Li Zi finished speaking, he directly took Wanda's hand and walked towards the dining table. The dark witch had a helpless look on her face, and immediately followed her, not at all angry at the other party's actions. At the dinner table, the two witches ate on it as usual. The smiles on their faces were very obvious. Obviously, the two of them have nothing to say about Li Zi's cooking skills, and they even have a feeling that they can't get enough. By the way, when we were trying to practice dark magic outside, we felt a very powerful energy vibrating for a moment. Do you know what happened? At this time, the dark witch stopped her hands and looked at Li Zi opposite with a puzzled expression, as if she wanted to get a complete answer from her. After all, Li Zi also went out at that time. Logically speaking, it should be more or less clear. It was also because of this that she asked aloud when she thought of this question. That's right, even I met it for the first time. Li Zi spoke slowly and then directly told the two of the rest of the matter. Because he felt that there was no need to hide this kind of thing, so it didn't matter if he told them about it to a certain extent. What? There is such a thing? After hearing this, the two witches even felt disbelief on their faces. How could Li Zi encounter such a strange thing? Especially when they encountered an unknown space in the void, and there happened to be a terrifying giant with self-awareness living in it, and the two sides had already fought each other. This sounds really a bit unbelievable. But then again, what is the other party's motive? Could it be that he simply wanted to kill the other party, that's all? Even though they thought of many kinds of guesses, in Li Zi's view, it was very undesirable. Because in a sense, he didn't want to pay too much attention to these things. The focus is still on creating magic, and the strong arrival of the mysterious man a few months later. Only things like this can attract his attention. For example, other angels, demons, and mysterious organizations are those so-called giants. These things are completely second to him in his opinion. It's good for you to be clear about these things. Don't think too much. It's still the same sentence. If the other party dares to come, we can just wipe the other party out. It's not a big problem. Li Zi said slowly. It seemed that these words seemed so calm to him, and he didn't care at all. It is also because of this that he has absolute confidence and experience in this. Another point is that you can be so arrogant before you meet the mysterious person. You know, even the dark witch in his heyday would have a hard time fighting against the mysterious man. Not to mention him, and Li Zi also saw that the universe in which the dark witch lived was destroyed. Surrounded by cold wreckage and dilapidated buildings, there is no trace of integrity, just like a complete piece of jade, which is suddenly broken. I know this. Because of this, we must be very careful about those so-called evil forces. Otherwise, if we allow the other party to succeed, the destruction it will bring us is not a joke. At this time, the witch spoke again, her tone full of anxiety. After all, those people's own strength is extremely powerful. If there is no emergency method, if they want to completely stop the other party at that time, it will be extremely difficult to the extent that they bring it. It is precisely because of this that they have to be more wary of each other. Yeah, what she said is right. There are also those so-called demons. Although they didn't defeat you last time, they have already accumulated a certain amount of resentment in their hearts. If the other party comes in a group, what they will bring, the pressure will be enormous. The dark witch next to her also had a serious tone, and she didn't seem to be joking at all. After Li Zi heard this, he nodded immediately. I understand what you guys mean, but the matter of must require a long-term plan. Otherwise, if you choose to act rashly, let alone destroy the other party, if the other party joining hands together, we will have no power to stop the other party from coming. This point is not groundless, but has a very high probability, and because of this, he believes that this matter must be carefully considered, and it must not be acted rashly. Since this is the case, then follow your method to implement it. If it doesn't work, we can also eliminate each other in advance to avoid future troubles. Next time you can't go alone, I want to go with you. When she said this, the witch's words became extremely firm, as if she had a great self-confidence, as if she was invincible, and there was no fear in those beautiful eyes. Don't talk about you. There is me. I can also go up to help. Don't forget, my own strength is also not to be underestimated. The dark witch's words were also so resolute, without any fear or apprehension. As long as he can help Li Zi completely solve this matter, then the next thing will become much easier. It is also because of this that if they want to obtain a short-term peace through this, they must kill all the forces that come from the other party, and they must not give the other party a chance. I see, I will take you with me next time. After listening, Li Zi thought it made sense, so he nodded and agreed. After all, the opponent's strength has also been improved by huge amounts of. If he is the only one who chooses to fight alone, although he can wipe out the opponent's demon clan and those so-called forces to a certain extent, it is absolutely impossible for him alone. So at this critical time, the importance brought by the two witches becomes extremely important. Li, you have to remember what you said. You can't choose to tease us next time, you know? The witch spoke slowly again. Her tone was like that of a coquettish girl. Someone else probably wouldn't be able to resist it. Okay, I get it. Don't talk about it. Hurry up and eat all the breakfast on the table, otherwise it's time. Li Zi smiled, and immediately agreed to the request of the other two, and he did not choose to discuss too much at this time. Since the analysis is aimed at the next occupation, it is enough to continue to develop directly in this direction. Because of this, he didn't have a big worry. If the discussion on this issue has been continued, the impact will be very huge amounts of, and it is precisely because of this that this matter will not continue. We know. The Dark Witch nodded, and the same was true for the witch next to her. The two of them also did not choose to continue on this issue. If they had to say something, then just follow Li Zi's words and implement it directly. Needless to say, there is too much psychological burden. After all, the other party has already done all the general things well. If none of this can be done well, then the next things will become extremely complicated. Soon. As time passed, the three of them finally cleaned up all the food on the table, stroked their stomachs slowly, and lay leisurely on the soft sofa. As in the past, the two witches usually spend most of their time studying the Dark God book, and watch movies directly in their free time, so they can pass the rest of the time. And Li Zi also didn't slack off because of this, because he was very aware of the huge influence brought by that mysterious person. If his own strength had not been improved by huge amounts of, then he might not be able to face that person at that time. If you make a move, you will be wiped out directly by the opponent. Because of this, he didn't want to see that scene happen. And he didn't want to cause the witch to be fundamentally harmed because of this, because he had to choose to protect the life of the other party. However, in the time it came down, they were each dealing with their own affairs. Create magic, or study the dark divine book, or go out to play occasionally, etc. This kind of life is exactly what Li Zi hopes for in his heart. But even so, perhaps the coercion brought by the mysterious man was too strong, causing them to have no time to relax. Because this kind of thing is very fatal, once you relax your vigilance, it will be too late to regret if you want to make up for it in time. Soon, a week passed. On this day, the clear sky was like a piece of complete and clear jade, covering the entire Zijing town. Especially the reflected sunlight was very bright, like cotton candy, falling directly on everyone's body, getting incomparable happiness cozy and relaxing. 1 week has passed, and it still takes time to create magic. Otherwise, it may be really difficult to get it out. In the study, the dazzling golden light instantly enveloped everything here, as if no one wanted to stop completely, but at this moment Li Zi showed a rare smile on his face. Because after this period of unremitting efforts, all the creation magic was finally produced. Although it is Dragon Ball, in comparison, it is more appropriate to call it creation magic. Because it can not only make a wish, but more importantly, it is very rare to be able to extract a certain amount of energy contained in it and use it for oneself. It's just that what Li Zi doesn't know is, how powerful is the magic contained in the creation magic. When it is applicable, extract it directly and see what the power contained in it is. Li Zi didn't choose to think too much, but silently arranged all these creation magics. Otherwise, it might become extremely difficult to achieve the purpose of control by using this. Because of this, if you want to control this huge energy in a real sense, you must be very careful. If one is not careful and makes these things extremely bad, the result will be quite miserable. Thinking of this, Li Zi's eyes gradually became extremely dignified, because he couldn't believe the impact of these energies. It was too huge, and it could even be said that once all these energies were diffused, let alone Shi Jingjun, the whole of New York is estimated to cease to exist. It is also because of this that he becomes so cautious when gathering all these together. Just to prevent this kind of thing from exceeding my most fundamental expectations. It even became uncontrollable in the end. Okay, if you want to completely extract all these energies by then, it probably won't be that difficult. After doing all this well, Li Zi did not continue to study too much in this aspect, but with a wave of both hands, all the magical protective shields that were set up were completely disappeared. Then push the door open, and the diameter faces outward. When I came outside, I found that two witches were chatting with each other. Definitely, the chat was very indirect with those so-called dark books. What are you talking about? Li Zi smiled, looked directly at the clear and clean faces of the two, and asked directly. He was very curious about the terrifying level of progress the two of them had made in learning the Dark God book during this period of time. Because not only has he made great achievements in creating magic, but also the Dark Divine book learned by the two witches has probably improved a lot. After seeing the person coming, the Dark Witch he took the lead and said directly, "What else can I do? Just teach this woman to learn the Dark Divine book. I'm going to be exhausted during this time." Speaking of which, she would occasionally pass her eyes to the witch. But who knows, after the latter heard this sentence, he immediately frowned and said, "Don't be too narcissistic, okay?" After saying this, the witch rode directly on her. Soon, because of this point, the two directly scuffled together again, without any intention of letting go of each other. Fortunately, the violent situation before the stage was not staged. If not, Li Zi would have to persuade him again. But this time, he didn't follow the two of them directly to persuade him. Instead, he came directly to the window, and his eyes fell on those sunny beaches. Because Zijing Town is relatively close to the sea, and because of this, as long as you come to the window, you can directly see the seawater that washes up the shore continuously. It can even be said that it brings a different feeling to the whole person. Although this feeling is not particularly clear, it can feel very refreshing anyway. This weather is the best for going out for a walk. Li Zi smiled, and then cast his gaze behind him again, and found that the two were already struggling, even going their own way, without any intention of stopping. There is no way. In order to prevent all this from happening, he went directly to separate the two as the party concerned. "You two, stop making trouble. Let's go out for a walk. Anyway, it's a boring lie. Hurry up and change your clothes. I think it's time for us to go." Li Zi felt a little helpless. After all, there was no way, who made two identical witches live in this room. Fortunately, however, the relationship between the two witches did not have a very huge amounts of broken relationship as before. It can be said that compared with what was said before, this situation is much better. Go for a walk. Okay, we're almost suffocated at home these days, and going for a walk is also a good choice. After hearing these words, the witch immediately ran into the room. After seeing this, the Dark Witch felt speechless for a while, because she knew very well that Li Zi wanted to take them out for just a reason. In fact, in the real sense, it is a disguised form to completely separate the two, so that they will not quarrel or fight so violently. Because of this, she immediately guessed the general idea of the other party at this moment. "Aren't you going?" Li Zi suddenly looked at the Dark Witch, and subconsciously asked directly. Didn't she want to change clothes? The Dark Witch who was asked was a little stunned. She smiled immediately. "Forget it. I'll do it myself. In this way, the progress can be speeded up." After the words fell, she waved her big hand lightly. An endless black aura burst out from her whole body, as if wrapped in real dark energy, without any bluntness or strangeness. Still your so-called Dark Witch. After a while. Because of the magical energy, her whole clothes are as if magical, and they were changed in an instant. It is a very casual outfit as a whole, definitely, and a simple change has been made in her appearance. It's not that the very good-looking feeling is more like a kind that can make people deeply attracted directly after watching it. Regarding this point, she didn't do it intentionally, but made an initial choice according to her usual hobbies. It is also because of this that she didn't choose too much entanglement in this point. That's about it. What do you think? After the Dark Witch changed her clothes, she still didn't forget to swing in front of Li Zi, just like a beautiful tall swan, especially the kind of innate indifference, who can stand at this moment it is fully reflected in it, as if it has not undergone any photo deception technology. Flawless. Those slender legs and clear face can give people a very clear and lovely appearance. "I feel fine, Zhu." Li Zi nodded. Although the other party changed a little at will, it gave people the impression that it was very direct, as if she was a very beautiful woman. Even if you don't look carefully, the face of the other party can give people a sense of sight of an Oriental woman. It's not without a certain basis, and it can even be said to be a very clear feeling. Hearing this sentence, the Dark Witch laughed out loud. "It feels good. So my original appearance is more attractive to you?" At this time, she was not angry because of the other party's answer, and even teased the other party directly. At this time, the Dark Witch looked at Li Zi expectantly, as if she wanted to get a perfect answer from her. Although she knew very well that the other party might not express it directly, she still hoped that the other party could speak out. In that case, she would definitely be happy in her heart for a long time. And Li Zi looked at the expectant face of the other party, and suddenly smiled. How should I put it? Your body is very good looking, and there is a feeling of being unstained from mud. Hearing these words, a smile appeared on the dark witch's face instantly, like that kind of flower petals, which bloom very broadly, and the other party is very charming when he smiles. However, before he could answer, the witch came out directly, and also changed into a very unique outfit, as if she was a real casual athlete. I've changed it, let's go. After the witch finished speaking, she walked directly towards the door, not forgetting to call the two of them. Soon, after a while, everyone was directly brought outside. I did not choose to leave Zijing town, because this place is extremely comfortable and peaceful. It is also because of this that they chose the location here, and it is in a very friendly place. Having experienced the previous few battles, it seems that we haven't gone for a walk like this for a long time. This kind of life is really rare. At this time, the witch spoke directly, without hiding anything. But then again, there is no complete need to hide. The three of them walked along the coast, enjoying the coolness of the breeze, with strong smiles on their faces, as if they were really integrated into it, without any irritability or anxiety. It can even be said that these lives have always been what they want and need. But compared to the previous words, it's just that the time of this kind of life is too short. Because of this, they now feel extremely relaxed and comfortable. Yeah, that's the point. It would be great if we could continue to enjoy it like this, without any worries or entanglements during the whole process. The Dark Witch did not choose to refute the other party this time, and even directly echoed the other party's words. After all, it is too important for the current life. If there were no so-called battles or emergencies during the whole process, they would probably be very happy to enjoy everything currently. Li Zi nodded immediately after listening. After all, what the other two said was correct, and this kind of easygoing and comfortable life was also what he wanted very much. Just can't help it. After all, during this period of time, there were really too many troubles and entanglements. And the most important thing is that those things have not been solved perfectly, and it can even be said that there are still the most dangerous problems. And the stress of those events is huge amounts of. If there is no real emergency means, it is estimated that it will be difficult to survive in this world. After all, they exist as superheroes. Although their duty is not to protect the Earth, but then again, as those who live on this planet, they cannot stand on the sidelines when those so-called evil forces invade. It doesn't matter. After all these things are dealt with, we will find a very suitable place to live in seclusion. At that time, no one can deny our decision. Speaking of this, Li Zi's words became extremely firm, because he knew very well that if he really wanted to achieve that level of effect, he would definitely need a little more effort in the whole process. If not, those incidents have not been truly resolved, and a new batch of troubles will arise. We trust you. At this time, the two witches said in unison. At the moment, they are very clear about each other's decision, and once they make a promise, they will definitely do it. It is precisely because of this that they have such great confidence in Li Zi. After Li Zi heard this, he looked in the direction of the two in surprise. He never expected that the other party's thoughts were synchronized this time. Regarding this point, to be honest, it really surprised him, because the other party had a lot of conflicts, which directly started the quarrel between the two parties. It has never happened like this before. As for the latter, they looked at each other and suddenly laughed directly, as if they had encountered some kind of happy event. Without wasting time here, the three of them continued to walk quickly towards the front. Because there are many young people and those children standing in front, the whole neighborhood is full of laughter, just like a real amusement park. However, compared with the former, this place is more peaceful and comfortable, without making people feel the slightest annoyance and irritability. It is also because of this that each of them will show a very happy thing on their faces. Li, look quickly, it really looks very lively over there. Let's hurry over and have a look. The witch also discovered this at this moment, and directly took Li Zi's hand, and walked quickly in that direction. And the Dark Witch didn't waste any time, and followed the two of them directly. It seems that because she enjoyed these things, she also developed a very strong interest in these things. You two wait for me. The Dark Witch didn't talk nonsense, and directly shouted to the two people walking in front. Because she also wants to get such an environment, these things are very attractive to her today. Soon, the three of them came directly to the seaside, and the warm light fell down. They didn't feel such a hot feeling, but they could feel the waves of heat in the sea air. It's really fun here, if only I could stay here forever. And the most important thing is that this place in Xitan town doesn't seem to be much inferior to the previous Asgard. The witch opened her arms, her face was full of enjoyment, She looked very pure and flawless as a whole. The sun was shining on her face, she was full of radiance, without any anxiety, or that a very worrying existence. Not only what you can feel, but also me. At this time, the Dark Witch's words suddenly appeared in her ears, and the so-called tone was no longer indifferent and cold as before, as if she was really enjoying everything in front of her. This kind of heat wave that hits the face, although one can feel a trace of blazing heat, but the residual warmth that sprinkles on the cheeks can make people feel excited. Time passed little by little. From the original early morning, it also began to become the afterglow of the setting sun today, as if time had stopped, and it was no longer the same as before. And at this time, the children and young people who were playing seemed to be going back to eat, and left here one after another. In the end, only the footsteps of the three remained on the entire coast. Instead of saying that, it's better to be that special strangeness. How are you feeling today? Li Zi cast his eyes in the direction of the two, because he knew very well what kind of day it was today. And most importantly, those so-called games are just for killing time. What needs to be done in the true sense is the creation of magic and the dark divine books that the two witches learn from each other. It is precisely because of this that he will ask about it. But then again, today's trip did give them endless relaxation to some extent. And as far as he himself is concerned, he is definitely not the kind of person who needs to fight all the time, but more of the so-called combination of work and rest. If there is not a complete rest time, then if you want to need more energy to deal with something at that time, then the impact will be huge amounts of. I feel okay today, not too good and not too bad. At this time, the Dark Witch directly spoke out what was in her heart, without thinking about other aspects at all. If this walk could be replaced with a so-called tour, it might be better to some extent. But it's okay, after all, this kind of thing will take a long time in the future. Needless to say, what to estimate, after all, there are still some things that have not been dealt with perfectly, just wasting time on this aspect now, it feels a bit bad. And you, how do you feel? Li Zi set his sights on the witch again, as if he wanted to get a very positive answer from her. It was precisely because of this that he asked directly. If not, if the other party does not have a better experience, it will undoubtedly mean that this walk is the most failed. Me? The witch pondered for a moment, and then said directly, actually, for me, I feel pretty good, and there is not much pressure. After all, for her, in a real sense, being able to go out for a walk with Li Zi this time already feels very good. Due to the occurrence of those things, the current time has become very tight. If you choose to go out and play all the time, if you want to face those so-called evil forces without falling into a disadvantage, you can only do so during this time period. Step up your studies and work hard to improve your own strength. Otherwise, once one's own strength has not really improved by then, the situation facing him may be very dangerous. Do you have any troubles? I think you always look a little absent-minded when you come out this time. Li Zi suddenly asked the witch. After all, this kind of thing really made him feel suspicious. In desperation, he had no choice but to ask her. After all, mind matters, especially for such terrifying witches, can't cause too much impact, otherwise it will be broken. Yeah, you say it, we have problems to solve together, in front of us, there is really no need to hide. At this time, the Dark Witch next to her also spoke, in a very comforting way. She understands the other self's thoughts very well, but even so, she still wants the other party to express it directly to feel better. Generally speaking, it's not a particularly difficult matter. The overall reason is about what Li said before. The witch hesitated for a while, and chose to speak directly. There was a hint of worry in those eyes. She was very worried that if the evil forces of the other party came directly to the door one day in the future, would they really be able to easily resist it? And the most important thing is that besides these forces, there are also mysterious people who will face it in a few months. These pressures turned into invisible, even she would feel extremely depressed. Does it mean that there is no solution? I've told you this before. Right now, these things are not something we need to worry about. Definitely, if the other party wants to come, it's enough for us to kill him directly. Li Zi said calmly, as if he didn't pay attention to those so-called forces at all. Even though the strength displayed by the other party is extremely powerful, in his opinion, the existence of the other party is still possible without any worries. It is also because of this that he feels extremely relaxed, and does not feel any tension like the witch or Stephen. Although I know this very well, once I think of the opponent's own strength, I will have an inexplicable worry. What should I do? The witch spoke directly again, and the worry in her eyes was even more intense. After listening to the other party's words, Li Zi and the Dark Witch looked at each other, and they knew very well what the other party was thinking. But even so, they still didn't express their thoughts directly, because today's women should feel extremely afraid of this matter. Once you directly explain this situation to the other party, it is estimated that other mobs will appear again. It is also because of this that they will not tell each other directly about this kind of thing. It's not so much that I can't, it's better to say that I can't bear it. But in the face of the other party's constant inquiries, they have nothing to do right now. Which, don't worry too much, even if those so-called forces come. I believe I will still have a certain way to solve this matter completely. Thinking of this, he walked towards the other party directly, and stretched out his hand to touch the other party's head, signaling her not to put too much pressure on her. Okay, don't worry about me, try to restrain this thought. The witch nodded heavily. After all, what the other party said was correct. If I kept thinking about these things, if I didn't say that the other party came, I guess I would be very stressed and annoyed by this kind of thing. Let's go. Let's continue to take a walk, and we can go back when it's about time. Li Zi doesn't seem to want to think too much about this kind of thing, because that kind of thing is pretty good except for being unfriendly to himself. The other two nodded one after another, and immediately followed Li Zi's footsteps. As for the witch's words, she also deeply remembered what Li Zi said before, and she didn't think too much about the other party's incident. The next day, it has been a full month since the last time. During this period of time, Li Zi and others came directly to Zijing Town and went for a walk and play in the same way. Definitely, the core issues still need to be practiced hard, such as creating magic, or those so-called dark divine books. These things are very important, there is no such thing as a bad thing. And the most important thing is that these things are all developing in a good direction, without any mistakes. Li, I can clearly feel the benefits brought about by my cultivation of the dark divine book, and a certain force is surging and gathering in my body, as if it is about to burst out at any time, without the slightest discomfort. The witch suddenly felt a burst of surprise, because this kind of thing is very miraculous, and she can't control her energy smoothly at all, as if it will burst out at any time. What on earth is it? In a situation like this, overall it's pretty good. If your strength doesn't improve, it will become a troublesome thing. Li Zi opened his mouth slowly, and the light in his eyes was enough to show that he had a very strong interest in this kind of thing. After all, the real strength of the other party is there, no matter how you look at it, it is very good, and it is precisely because of this that I feel extremely happy and gratified. Li is right. When the time comes, your effort will increase. Are you not happy about this? The dark witch snickered, and took advantage of the opportunity to directly tease the other party, without showing a nervous face at all because of the improvement in the other party's strength. Definitely happy. Who said I'm not happy? The witch glared at the other party angrily, without giving the other party a chance to fight back. It is also because of this that she will directly say that sentence. Okay, it's enough if you're happy. The dark witch has no intention of quarreling with the other party at all. After all, this kind of thing should be done as soon as possible, and it doesn't need too much process. And most importantly, they still want to quickly enjoy the happiness brought by this time in the next period of time. Let's go and stroll around. After all, there are too many things to fight before. This kind of time is also a time to relax a lot. Otherwise, if you want to completely face those so-called forces, you will feel a little bit difficult. Li Zi smiled and didn't discuss this issue too much, because he was very clear about the next schedule. If you don't have enough rest, you will feel somewhat tired and in a trance. It's true. Let's go quickly. The witch immediately took Li Zi's hand and continued to walk forward, ignoring the dark witch behind her. I think you are really tired of living. Seeing this scene, the dark witch was immediately angry. It was fine to ignore her a few times before, but this time it was the same. The other party's behavior was nothing more than directly annoyed her. After saying this, she immediately walked quickly towards the witch, and then performed the tickling technique, groping back and forth on her body. The witch also felt it, and immediately held back her smile, and launched the most violent offensive towards the other party. These two. Li Zi shook his head helplessly when he saw this scene, but he didn't pay too much attention to it, because this kind of thing is actually a good thing, and the most important thing is, like this kind of thing is not necessarily a good thing. Enjoying the joy of Zijing Town right now, even for a moment, Li Zi was almost able to forget about the demon clan and those so-called forces. The whole brain is completely emptied, without any worries. It is precisely because of this that he will feel extremely happy. If not, if he wants to think about these things more, it will probably have a very big impact on himself. If this is the case, he will never think about it. Because if you think more, you will add more trouble to yourself. It was a scene he would never want to see. But right now, I must create all the so-called creative magic in a short time, otherwise, if the other party comes forward, I am afraid that my situation will become very dangerous, and the two people around me will be the same. After thinking of this, Li Zi immediately had a very clear goal in mind. That is to enhance one's own strength to the extreme in a short period of time. Definitely, except for the so-called energy boosts from the angel family before, perhaps because of the impact of those energies, his overall strength has also been greatly increased to some extent. Li, don't stand still, hurry up and follow. At this time, the witch not far in front also waved her hand, and directly called Li Zi's name in the loudest voice. Because they got a very happy and exciting joy here, without a real worry, and because of this, they will have a special fun. Okay, I see, you guys go first. Li Zi shook his head helplessly, and a slight smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. After not thinking too much, he accelerated his pace in the direction of the two of them. Because if they don't catch up, the two of them will disappear directly from his sight. Time is also passing by a little bit. The whole afternoon, the three of them had a great time playing in the small Westview town. He even chose to play until the evening. After all, in addition to the overall hard work at this time, the rest of the time is to develop directly in the direction of playing. And the most important thing is that they also met many children during these processes, and each of them will reveal a very strong smile on their faces, just like those flowers that are about to bloom, and the appearance they show is very beautiful. And a little bit of that so-called self-confidence. This makes Li Zi feel very happy and sublimated. In the end, as night fell, the cold wind by the sea kept beating the faces of the three of them before they walked towards the apartment not far behind. Overall, they were very happy during this time. Li, how are you feeling today? At this moment, the witch suddenly asked Li Zi, her eyes full of curiosity and anticipation. It seems that at this moment, she really wants to get a satisfactory answer from the other party. I feel okay. After all, we are all in the good times of Westview Town during this period, there is no struggle or trouble, so overall it is pretty good. Li Zi spoke slowly, and cast those deep eyes in a certain direction. Thinking about it, it's really the case, after all, we don't have too many worries. The witch was full of smiles, and took his hand casually, and said to the dark witch who hadn't spoken, let's go home. Good. At this moment, for some reason or coincidence, the two said in unison. Not long after, Li Zi and others also returned to that apartment. However, at this time, there was a slight ripple in the void behind him, as if he had noticed it. Li Zi and the dark witch looked back at the same time. The witch is also bewildered. What happened? Boom. An extremely powerful energy shock instantly split the void, and two people walked out of it. When Li Zi saw the appearance of the two of them clearly, he immediately felt extremely surprised, because they were Thor and Valkyrie. Is it you? Li Zi was the first to ask. Why are you here? It seems that you have encountered great difficulties. Because he saw scars all over the body from the two of them, his eyelids almost narrowed. The appearance of the two of them, as well as the blood-stained very bright red clothes on their bodies, made the whole air very dense and loose. What happened? The witch came over to check the injuries. If you look carefully, you can see that the injuries of the two of them are not serious, more like they were severely injured, and they don't look well. For the time being, don't let them talk, because the injuries of these two people are very serious. If there is no very good treatment, it will be somewhat difficult to recover completely. At this time, the dark witch put away her previous complexion, with a dignified expression on her face, and she no longer had the same joking look as before. Because she judged from the degree of injury of the other two, the other party was obviously attacked very seriously by others. I know, so I want to ask. The witch nodded, but after she finished speaking, she didn't continue to say anything more. After all, judging from the extent of the injuries of the other two, the appearance is very serious. If there is no timely treatment time, it is estimated that it will be difficult to bear it. It is also because of this that they must send each other to treatment now. In a short time, Thor and Valkyrie were sent back to the apartment by Li Zi and others. The reason why he didn't choose to send him to those so-called hospitals was because there was no ability to treat him well there. It could even be said that the effect of the so-called treatment techniques was really minimal. Li, how did they suffer such serious injuries? Are you clear about this? At this time, the witch directly asked Li Zi next to her, as if she wanted to get some very useful information from her. After all, only by getting some relevant information from the other party can they bring the other party back to life. About this point, in the real sense, I'm not too sure about the specifics, because the injuries of the two opponents are really far beyond my imagination, but then again, both of them logically belong to Chaweng. Exist, it is difficult for ordinary people to cause very serious harm to them. When it came to this point, Li Zi's words obviously became much slower. After all, judging from the extent of the opponent's injuries, it is estimated that only those so-called superheroes can cause very serious injuries to them. Don't think too much about those things for the time being, it's better to treat the other two completely. Li Zi shook his head, and didn't think about it in a deeper direction. After all, that kind of thing is too confusing for the moment. After the other two witches finished listening, they also nodded secretly. After all, it is better not to think about such things for the time being. Once there is no accurate direction, then if you want to solve the problem from the real source, it feels somewhat whimsical. It is also because of this that their current state still does not support thinking about it. Not long after, Li Zi and the others turned their attention directly to the so-called Thor and Valkyrie who were lying on the sofa. What do we do next to help them heal? At this time, the witch asked again, with curiosity and anticipation flickering in her eyes. After all, according to her current strength, it shouldn't be enough to completely heal the opponent. As mentioned earlier, the extent of the two injuries was too great. Without a certain amount of real strength, it is estimated that if you want to help, you will have no way to do it. Let me try it, with my current strength, I should be able to treat two people. The dark witch opened her mouth slowly, and a light shone in her beautiful eyes. After Li Zi finished listening, he nodded directly. In a real sense, the overall strength of the dark witch is still much stronger than him. It is also because of this that he is willing to give the other party this opportunity. And I believe that with the help of the dark witch, the degree of injury of the two should be able to fully meet the means of treatment. Okay, then you have a try, I hope you can succeed. After listening to the witch, she didn't choose to object. After all, she had seen the other party's strength. If the other party didn't have this means and strength, she probably wouldn't have given the other party any chance. Under the full gaze of the two, the dark witch directly cast chaos force, and scarlet and violent energy surged wildly in her palm, just like a real magician. Especially those so-called the strong wind directly caused the entire space to suddenly become a little turbulent. The two people who noticed this energy didn't worry too much. Although the energy of the other party can directly affect the whole of some spaces, if it is not too intense, they should be able to stabilize to a certain extent. Because of this, the two of them didn't have a very big worry. For the current situation, the two of them only need to follow each other's method to manipulate it directly, and there is no need for too many integrated things. Because in that case, it would be too troublesome to come out of the country. Boom. Waves of incomparably majestic energy erupted in the dark witch's body in an instant, as if those so-called energies were surging wildly around her. There is not a trace of fluctuating influence, even so, but with the dark witch's hands, all the so-called energy is transferred into the bodies of the two opponents little by little. Next moment, the bodies of both of them bloomed an infinitely dazzling light curtain. What exactly is going on? At this moment, the witch revealed a very puzzled expression. Because she very clearly felt that when the other party used this energy, the chaos force in her body also surged crazily with the intervention of this energy, as if it was driven by the whole process. Although she was a little puzzled, she still didn't say a single word. After all, at this critical moment, if a small action of hers disturbed the so-called recovery process, it would be so dark. All the witch's previous efforts will be in vain. It is also because of this that she will suppress the emotion in her heart in time. It seems that if you want to know the specific situation of these, then for now, you can only wait slowly. After all, you still need to spend more time in terms of time. After the witch thought of this, she didn't have an original idea. For now, it's better to stabilize it first. No one wants to see this kind of thing. Since it happened right in front of us, we have to wait for the two of them to wake up gradually, so that we can get some very specific and useful information from each other. It is also because of this that her current thoughts have not spread to the outside. Otherwise, if you think about it too much, Li Zi and the others will have to try their best to persuade themselves. In that case, she really didn't want to watch the day. Swish. Also at this time, the originally dark room was instantly enveloped by the energy released by the dark witch, as if emitting an incomparably sacred light, completely dispelling all the evil things mixed in around it. The bodies of Valkyrie and Thor, the originally injured bodies, all became scattered under the bath of this endless brilliance, without any influence. And the most important thing is, with the influx of those starbursts, in an instant, the bodies of the two of them all bloomed with endless red light, and those so-called injuries were gradually repaired at this time, and nothing happened. Other side effects. It is almost completely unbelievable. Even in such a situation, this sense of sight is extremely surprising. Lee, I just clearly felt that the energy in her body has a special connection with mine. What's going on? Unable to bear the curiosity in her heart, the witch directly asked Li Zi next to her. After all, the other party should be able to understand the mutual connection between the two of them, and it is precisely because of this that she will focus on the other party. Not once or twice, maybe it's because the two people are almost identical, or it's because they have studied the Dark God book with each other during this period of time, which caused the two to gradually become the same at some points. If I'm right, it should be because you and her have studied the Dark God book during this period of time, so there is a certain connection between the two of you. Li Zi thought for a moment, then directly opened his mouth to explain. Even so, his eyes were still only on those two people. Because the opponent's injury was too serious, and because of this, he didn't relax at all. After hearing these words, the witch nodded immediately. Definitely, she was not too angry about Li Zi's actions. After all, it is inevitable that the other party has certain concerns. Although the strength of Thor and Valkyrie is not too strong, when facing some enemies, it can still be solved easily. Besides, even in the face of the so-called gear, there should be a certain amount of fighting capital. But despite saying this, the two of them were directly injured this time, so what happened? Don't wait for the two to think about something. Also at this moment, the endless light that enveloped the entire room before disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared before. As if aware of it, Li Zi and the witch directly cast their eyes on those two people. At the moment, the Dark Witch walked towards the two of them. I've already used my ability to the fullest. If there is no accident, the lives of the two of them should be fine. I need to take a rest. After saying this, the Dark Witch went directly to a sofa and sat down. Seeing this scene, Li Zi immediately nodded. You've tried your best. The rest depends on the willpower of the two of them. No one can change this kind of thing. After finishing speaking, he also immediately stayed by the side and waited quietly, because there was no way to urge this kind of thing. Time passed little by little. I don't know how long it has passed. With the help of the Dark Witch, the two also began to gradually wake up. Are you all right? At this time, the witch directly went up to help Valkyrie, who was weak. It's great to see you all. Valkyrie's gaze fell on Li Zi and the others, with tears in her eyes. After all, it is a very rare opportunity to survive successfully with the help of the other party. What do you mean by that? Li Zi frowned slightly. And what happened to Asgard? Even you were seriously injured. Having said that, he turned his attention to the two people who were lying on the sofa. Although they felt a little weak and tired physically, with the help of the Dark Witch, the two of them were able to speak. At this time, Thor next to him sighed, and immediately explained, it's probably like this. Under his narration, Li Zi and others also immediately understood the general process of this matter. It turns out that not long ago, their Asgard has become very good as a whole with the passage of time. People are stable and healthy. Except for doing some patrol work, there are no major problems, but even so, in the end, something unexpected happened. Then, they also encountered a very serious problem, that is, the entire Asgard was facing a tear in the void, and the turmoil caused by that caused most of the people in Asgard to be sucked in. Once they entered, the consequences they would face it is a direct death. There is no rule at all, as if encountering a very powerful enemy. And the most important thing is that those so-called enemies are very powerful. It can even be said that if they hadn't exploded their final strength and completely opened up the entire space, they would probably be facing the declaration of death. Because of this, they finally succeeded in winning. Even under such circumstances, they still failed to rescue those Asgard people from it, and even almost died there themselves. After listening to the other party's words, Li Zi suddenly fell into a deep thought. What's going on? Is there a new enemy? Logically speaking, it shouldn't be. After all, for the people of Asgard, it happened to be in the kind of days that had just returned to peace. It is also because of this that the entire Asgard will not suffer major damage at all. But even so, the original facts far exceeded their initial expectations. Do you know where those enemies come from? The witch seemed to be unable to hold back her temper, and immediately questioned the two of them. The other side looked at each other, seeming to see a moment of bewilderment in their eyes, then shook their heads one after another, and said in unison, we don't know, but the only difference is that those enemies are very huge, like giants. Hearing this, Li Zi's expression moved slightly. Very bulky. Like a giant. Judging from these two information points, if his guess is correct, it is most likely because of the giants he encountered before. But those are between illusion and reality. In the real sense, if you want to defeat the opponent from it, you must let yourself enter that special space. Otherwise, it will not have much impact on it at all. It was also because of this that he immediately thought of this aspect. But what the other party should say is very different from him. It seemed that he saw Li Zi pondering beside him, thinking he had some idea. Thor immediately asked, "Li, do you know something?" After saying this, the others also turned their attention to him, as if they wanted to get some very useful information from him. Li Zi nodded, and also chose not to hide anything, but told the two of the situation he encountered. After listening to the other party's narration, Thor's expression moved slightly. "So, the enemies we encountered should be the same as the ones you encountered, the same situation, and the most important thing is that they exist in illusion. We fight against each other at times, it's completely impossible to attack it, which annoys us a lot." When he said this, he felt a little very disappointed, and he took a little breath. "It doesn't matter, it is the best result for you to survive. When you are almost recovered, I will go there with you to destroy them." Speaking of this, the witch showed great resentment, because originally those demon races had already caused her a very troublesome existence. Because of this, when she heard these things, she only became more angry. After all, no one can really solve it. Because of too many things, she hated these forces to the bone, without any sympathy or pity at all. Even 10 simple thoughts wanted to solve the other party directly. "Thank you. If it wasn't for your help this time, Thor and I probably wouldn't be able to hold on anymore." Valkyrie looked at the other party very seriously. Her words were full of great gratitude, and there was no trace of falsehood in them. "That's right. This time we are really in big trouble." Thor also hurriedly echoed beside him, with those so-called wry smiles on his face. Since he was young, this was the first time he had experienced such a situation. Although his own strength was already very strong, he still felt somewhat incomparably weak in front of those unknown enemies. "Even I am not the opponent of those people. Let's talk about everything after you all have a rest." Li Zi didn't talk nonsense, but spoke slowly. "Although the mysterious person will not show up until a few months later, for now, it is still necessary to deal with all the current matters quickly. Demons, mysterious organizations, and the so-called illusory giants. These are important matters that need to be dealt with. If not, once the other party is supported, it will not be as simple as a troublesome matter. It is also because of this that these matters must be resolved thoroughly." However, in the next period of time, Li Zi vacated the extra room, and Thor and Valkyrie also recovered physically during this period of time. However, it was also such a time, and it lasted until half a month later. During this period of time, everyone felt very happy, as if they had thrown away all their troubles, as if they had no ties or irritated thoughts. In that case, let's set off as soon as possible, because the current Asgard has been destroyed. Thor didn't relax in the slightest. After all, that disaster dealt an extremely heavy blow to the entire Asgard. It is precisely because of this that he must rush back to deal with it as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the opponent's conspiracy succeeds, the consequences will be unimaginable. Thor is right. Let's go quickly. Valkyrie also put away her usual demeanor, and spoke directly and decisively. After all, this kind of matter is very important. If there is no good way to deal with it, they will face far more than that. "I agree with your idea." Li Zi didn't have any extra nonsense, but directly led the crowd, opened the dimension portal with both hands in an instant, and then crossed it, and directly arrived at Asgard smoothly. However, the scene that happened in front of them made everyone feel very shocked and stunned. Because everything that happened in front of me has far exceeded everyone's surprises, everything has ceased to exist, and the burning fire is constantly filling everything around, as if most of it can be swallowed up in the next moment. The surrounding trees were all reduced to ashes, none of them was complete in the true sense, and everywhere was in dilapidated condition, which made people feel very unbelievable. "My God! What the hell is going on here?" Seeing this scene, the witch's eyes widened instantly, and she couldn't believe what happened in front of her eyes, because these things were really unbelievable. It can even be said that if she hadn't been to Asgard before, she wouldn't believe what happened before her eyes. The scope of diffusion is simply too large. As I told you before, those illusory giants have invaded here, and we can't resist them with our own strength, and because of this, we have completely failed, and to be precise, we are not opponents at all. When Thor said this, he felt a little bit lost and depressed. After all, that kind of thing happened was not what he wanted to see. But when facing those illusory giants, there is no way to fight back at all. Then do you know where it is? The dark witch, who hadn't opened her mouth all this time, asked. Her eyes also showed that solemn look, without any slack at all. Since the other party dared to choose to do this, they probably came here with some purpose. It is also because of this that Asgard suffered such a devastating blow. Definitely. These are mostly guesses by her, even so, but this kind of thing is indeed somewhat uncertain. Or is it true? It's not clear yet, but the last time we went there, it was a tear that appeared from the void. We were curious and chose to enter directly, but it was too late to regret it at that time. Thor said very solemnly, without any sign of joking. It seems to be narrating a very heavy thing. Is that so? Since this is the case, we can open it directly in the same way. It is not good to waste too much time. Speaking of this, Li Zi shook his hand. A golden light suddenly appeared, and the sword of Emperor Weishan appeared in his hand instantly, and a very dangerous aura began to permeate from him gradually, like a sword god who had not been born for a long time. Boom. Immediately, without wasting time, he gently swung an incomparably violent sword energy toward a certain void direction. The berserk sword energy directly pierced in that direction, piercing the sky for a moment, as if the void had been truly ripped open. Next moment, it quickly spread towards both sides, and an even more powerful mirror world appeared in the eyes of everyone. Thor's expression changed suddenly, and he pointed at it immediately. It should be right, it's there. Because the aura emanating from there immediately made him feel extremely familiar, and it was precisely because of this that he dared to be so sure. Then let's go in. Li Zi nodded. The two witches also followed closely behind. There was no trace of hesitation during the whole process, as if there was no feeling of fear of each other. On the contrary, Thor and Valkyrie behind him hesitated a little, because they happened to have faced those illusory giants before, and they knew very well the terrifying strength displayed by the other party. So I still feel a bit of pain in my heart. What happened to you guys? Li Zi seemed to have noticed something, and immediately turned to look at them, frowning slightly. Aren't you afraid of those monsters? The dark witch spoke slowly. Facing the inquiry of the two, Thor looked at each other in blank dismay, then shook his head, and flew directly not far in front of him. This is in line with your style. Seeing the other party's actions, Li Zi smiled directly. But having said that, the other party has such a mentality, and I can understand it very well. Quick. Only a gust of wind was heard, and the figures of the people immediately disappeared in place, and entered inside immediately. After coming inside, the difference to Li Zi is not very big. If I say the difference is that the atmosphere here is colder than that outside. It is also because of this that they feel so cold, as if they are in an ice cave where the temperature drops sharply, without any warmth. Even those so-called cold and snowy places are nothing more than that. It feels really cold here. Speaking of this, the witch couldn't help but feel a little shivering. Before Li Zi could speak, there was an incomparably huge vibration from the ground, as if the landslide was splitting. Next moment, countless giants slowly appeared, as if they had predicted their arrival early. It seems that we can finally have a small meal this time, and there are a few human beings with good strength. A giant with two heads opened his mouth slowly. The tone he heard was extremely cold, especially those eyes were full of incomparable greed, as if they were the food in his eyes. Hee. This group of human beings is really interesting. They even took the initiative to send them to your door. Aren't they afraid of death? Another giant spoke. HMPH, human beings just like courting death. The more they do this, the easier it is for us to devour. Haven't you noticed? These guys are all delicious. The rest of the giants also echoed. All of a sudden, this place seemed to be a party, and every giant seemed extremely excited. This scene made the three of Li Zi's faces gloomy. Sure enough, I still can't escape. Thor smiled wryly. I have no choice but to fight, although doing so may cause damage. Valkyrie also clenched the spear in his hand. However, at this moment of life crisis, no one cared so much. Ha ha ha, human beings are indeed cowards. Since you are not willing to surrender obediently, then I can only kill you and eat them. The two-headed giant grinned again and said. The next moment, they rushed towards the three of Li Zi. Shish. The sound of endless arrow shooting resounded through the sky. However, in the face of such an attack, the giant didn't care at all, and directly resisted with his body, and then, with the surprised expressions of the three of Thor, broke the arrow. The arrow was destroyed with just one blow, and there was even a sign of continuing to charge forward. Damn thing. Thor cursed in a low voice. He knew that this was the other party mocking him. Arrows of this level can't stop their footsteps. The witch's expression was very serious. They must be stopped, otherwise, we will all have to answer here today. Li Zi also nodded in agreement. After all, they don't have Tony's terrifying defensive power. If they are approached by these giants, it will definitely be a catastrophic disaster. Whoosh whoosh. Another wave of arrows rained down. However, it was still intercepted by those giants, and finally turned into fragments of stars all over the sky and fell to the ground. Although such an attack cannot pose a fatal threat to them, it is annoying enough. No, these guys are too troublesome, we can't delay like this. Li Zi frowned and said. Although the opponent's strength is not too strong, but the number is too much, and these guys are immune to magic. He doesn't think his magic is useful to the opponent, so he can only take another way of thinking. It's not an option to go on like this. You guys go first, I'll stay with the queen. After pondering for a while, Li Zi made a decision to let the two leave. How is this possible? Valkyrie immediately rejected the words. We came together, let's go together, it's too dangerous for you to stay alone. Thor also disagreed with such a proposal, and stayed without even thinking about it. You two idiots. Li Zi rolled his eyes, stretched out a hand and patted the shoulders of the two. I have a way to get out of trouble. Let's go, we can't help you now. Thor saw Li Zi's resolute face, with a bitter smile on his face, and then he didn't continue to persuade him, and turned around and left here with the witch and others. Li Zi didn't care too much, but took a look around, and his eyes stayed on the two giant heads. Let's go. As soon as he gave an order, he was ready to leave with Thor and the witch. Humans, you can't escape, we have locked your position, you can't escape, hurry up and surrender to us. The two giants roared ferociously, obviously wanting to attract the three of Li Zi to join them. You are looking for your own death. Li Zi snorted coldly, and then punched the opponent directly. You wanna die? The two giants instantly raged, and immediately rushed forward with fists waving. Boom. The two fists collided fiercely, and the smoke from the explosion instantly filled the entire space, greatly affecting the line of sight. This guy dares to provoke a giant. Thor and Valkyrie watched from the side, their faces full of horror. You know, the opponent can easily resist the existence of arrows, even if they hit with all their strength, they may not be able to destroy the opponent's defense. And Li Zi's punch just now had no effect at all, and it didn't even pierce the opponent's skin. On the contrary, it was his fist that was shocked by the opponent. Is this the defense of the giants? Li Zi squinted his eyes and looked at the giant in front of him. His face gradually became serious, because he clearly felt the soreness of his fist. Moreover, there was a strange energy in his body, which made him frown. Humans, you'd better catch them without a fight. The giant grinned grimly. The next moment, his mouth opened suddenly, and a ball of flames spewed out immediately. The howling fireball came towards Li Zi. Get out of the way. Valkyrie yelled. But Li Zi dodged directly to the other side. Human, your speed is very fast. The two giants looked at Li Zi, the corners of their mouths slightly raised. They didn't rush to catch up, but looked at Li Zi jokingly, like a cat playing with a mouse. These guys. Li Zi stared at those giants with gritted teeth, secretly hating in his heart. It seems that we can only fight together. Li Zi gritted his teeth and said. Hearing Li Zi's words, Valkyrie and Thor had surprised expressions on their faces, as if they didn't expect Li Zi to make such a move. You two. Let's go. At the next moment, Li Zi suddenly turned his head to look at the two of them, and then shouted in a deep voice. Go? Why? If we want to go, we must take you with us. Thor froze for a moment, then shook his head and said, unwilling to leave alone. Come on, you're gone. I can still cast spells to escape, but if you don't leave, do you think you can hold on until the reinforcements come? At that time, you wait to collect my body. Li Zi looked solemnly, and then roared loudly. Thesa. After hearing Li Zi's words, the two also hesitated for a while. Let's go. I can deal with these monsters, trust me. Li Zi urged again. Okay, then be careful, if you can't do anything, retreat, don't be brave. Thor finally compromised, and Li Zi finally felt relieved when he saw this. Hee, human, you are really stupid. Do you think you can fight us with your strength? Your end is already doomed. And the moment Li Zi relaxed, the attack of the two giants followed closely to the sky. Boom. Boom. Two fists hit Li Zi's chest fiercely, causing Li Zi to fly upside down. After knocking down several trees, his face was full of seriousness. At this time, he realized that the strength of these giants was even more terrifying than he had imagined. It seems that we can only take a risk and test it. Li Zi took a deep breath, then bent his legs and squatted down directly. Then, his right palm was raised suddenly, the muscles on his arm swelled up high, and the veins bulged out, as if earthworms were wrapped around it, which was weird. Let you try this. The next moment, a majestic force burst out from his palm, turned into a gust of wind and swept across the surroundings, blowing all the weeds to this side, even those who were eating in the distance. Both giants almost fell to the ground. Boom. At the same time, accompanied by a violent explosion, a mushroom cloud rose up, and endless dust floated in the sky. Ha ha ha, it's great that this guy actually chooses suicide attack. The giant looked at the rising mushroom cloud, his face was full of excitement. They originally thought that Li Zi would run away, but they didn't expect that the other party would choose a suicide attack. They are so stupid. Now, so what if this human being has terrifying strength? He still has to die. Their faces were full of cruel expressions, and they did not hide their joy at all. At this time, the smoke and dust dissipated slowly, revealing the scene inside. What? However, the next moment, the giants were stunned. Because, Li Zi, who was supposed to be reduced to ashes before their eyes, is still standing there in good condition, and there is no scar on his body at all. How can it be? This human actually blocked our attack. Damn, you're not human. The two giants were surprised, but more fearful, because they had witnessed the scene of human's fragile body collapsing under their iron fists, so now this thought constantly popped up in their minds. No, I'm human. Li Zi said lightly, and then, his figure suddenly disappeared in place. What? The pupils of the two giants shrank, and panic appeared on their faces, but they quickly calmed down and began to defend. Pest. The next moment, Li Zi's figure suddenly appeared behind the two of them, and then a finger popped out, directly piercing one of them's throat. Grunt. And the blood shot out from the latter's neck, with a look of unwillingness in his eyes, and he fell to the ground with a bang. The other giant was taken aback when he saw this. Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that now it's my turn to do it. Li Zi glanced at the giant indifferently, then stepped forward abruptly. Boom. With every step he stepped on the ground, the entire forest trembled like an earth dragon rolling over. The giant looked at Li Zi, who was getting closer, with a look of panic in his eyes. Subconsciously he was about to twitch his spear and stab at Li Zi. Hee hee, you only have one last chance left. Li Zi grinned, and then stretched his arms. Click. A sound of bones breaking suddenly came, and the giant screamed, clutching his arm, and looked at Li Zi in disbelief. You. That's right, just now I have abolished your limbs. Li Zi said contemptuously, and then his left shot out suddenly. Boom. The giant was blown several meters away by a punch, and then fell heavily to the ground. How can it be? There was a deep shock in the giant's eyes. He is like a giant, although he is injured, but he is not so vulnerable. Your strength. The giant's eyes were full of horror. HMPH, I don't know if I'm dead or alive. Li Zi snorted coldly, and then his figure disappeared in an instant, appearing beside the giant. Snapped. Immediately, he kicked the giant in the stomach and sent it flying more than 10 meters away. Ahem. The giant struggled to get up, his eyes filled with disbelief. He is a giant race, although he is not a pure race, but he definitely belongs to a noble race, and now, he was actually defeated by a small human being. This filled his heart with humiliation. Human, you've angered me. He roared, his eyes were red, and the momentum on his body skyrocketed in vain. HMPH, looking for death. Li Zi let out a cold snort, and swept out with a kick. A look of horror immediately appeared on the giant's face. Because, the power of Li Zi's kick far exceeded his tolerance limit. Boom. The giant's cheek was kicked by Li Zi, and the whole face was sunken. He felt pain all over his body, and even the power in his body stagnated, and his whole body became limp, as if he didn't even have the strength to stand up. The giant uttered a word with difficulty. He felt the passing of life, and there was disbelief in his eyes. I told you, today you must die. Li Zi looked at the giant with an extremely cold tone. These giants slaughtered countless human beings. This kind of behavior is unforgivable. As soon as his words fell, he rushed up in an instant, and then stretched out his hand to grab the giant's neck. Don't even think about it. Gritting his teeth, the giant roared. His body suddenly swelled several times, and his skin became extremely black, like armor made of steel. Boom. Li Zi grabbed the giant's neck, and then twisted it suddenly. A huge force broke out, twisting the giant's neck abruptly. Whoa, whoa. The giant panted heavily, his eyes were full of resentment, but he had no choice but to stare at Li Zi resentfully. I remember you, he roared, and then his figure gradually became unreal. Huh? Still want to run? Li Zi snorted coldly, and his figure disappeared again, appearing beside the giant. Boom. It kicked out again, directly kicking the giant out and smashing it into the soil. The giant struggled to get up, but the next moment, he was stunned. Because his body became completely stiff, he lowered his head, and suddenly saw a dagger stuck in his chest. This is Li Zi's dagger, and he was controlled by Ji. You. Who the hell are you? Giants are full of shock and horror. This scene made him understand what kind of enemy he encountered. It doesn't matter who I am, what matters is that you must die. Li Zi said indifferently. The next moment, Li Zi's figure disappeared in place again. The giant was just about to resist, but a sharp pain came from his neck. Wella. The giant's eyes widened. He lowered his head and looked at his chest in astonishment. There was a hideous footprint there. And his neck was pinched by Li Zi. Die. The next moment, Li Zi flipped his wrist and directly broke the giant's neck. Boom. The giant's body crashed to the ground. Crash. With the death of the giant, the surrounding trees withered, as if their essence had been sucked dry. Die. The next moment, Li Zi flipped his wrist and directly broke the giant's neck. Boom. The giant's body crashed to the ground. Crash. With the death of the giant, the surrounding trees withered, as if their essence had been sucked dry. When the other giants saw this scene, they also showed a very incredible look in their eyes. Because they are very aware of their own strength, but even so, they are still vulnerable to this weak human being in front of them. What kind of horrible human being is this? It's up to you next, you must die today. I will never give you any chance. Before they could really react, Li Zi's figure rushed towards the other party in an instant, almost an invisible black shadow. Humans, you are too arrogant. Don't think that you can ignore our existence if you kill a giant. It's not certain who will die today. Another giant said viciously. There was no fear in that tone, and even a feeling of anger. Because Li Zi kills their companions, which makes them intolerable at all. Boom boom boom. The two giants fought crazily and became a group, but soon, everyone understood that these two giants were not Li Zi's opponents at all. Because Li Zi's speed is really too fast, and his strength is great. Bang bang. In just a moment, the two giants were sent flying. Poof. Two landing sounds sounded, and then, the corpses of the two giants fell from midair, hitting the ground and splashing dust. The dust looks particularly glaring under the sunlight. Li Zi slowly withdrew his palm. A look of indifference flashed in his eyes, then he looked up at the giants in the distance. Who else wants to try? Hiss. Hearing this, those giants trembled with fright. Although they were ferocious, they were not stupid, knowing that they were no opponents at all. What's more, they have seen Li Zi's terrifying strength just now. This guy is simply not something they can compete with. Damn humans. Suddenly, there was a roar in the distance, and then, everyone found that in the depths of those woods, towering ancient trees rose from the ground one by one. They are hundreds of meters high, blocking the sunlight and covering the entire world. At the same time, Li Zi also noticed that there were dense figures standing on the top of those towering giant trees. Those figures are like giants one by one. These giants are similar in appearance to those two giants, except that these giants are several times stronger than the previous two giants. These are. Li Zi's complexion changed slightly. Ha ha ha, human, you are finished. Your time has come. The giants laughed wildly and said. Li Zi ignored them, he just looked around calmly, and then asked, who are you? The person who came to kill you. As expected of a human being, no wonder you dare to break into this place alone. It seems that we have underestimated your courage. Those strange giants stared at Li Zi coldly and said. At the same time, they never expected that the other party would come here at this time, and they were indeed quite surprised. Since that's the case, hurry up and don't bother me, or I'll kill you too. Li Zi spoke slowly, his tone extremely indifferent. Stupid human, I don't think you know how powerful our trolls are. In this case, let me show you the power of the troll clan. One by one, the trolls began to roar crazily. At the same time, they moved quickly and came to Li Zi's side in the blink of an eye. Bang bang. Li Zi's arms swung out in an instant, knocking back all these trolls, But these trolls have thick skin and thick flesh, so even if they were attacked, they would still be in pain. Damn human, no matter how powerful you are, you can't defeat us. A member of the troll clan shouted angrily, boom boom boom. In an instant, these trolls rushed up again. Each of them is extremely burly, especially the hard fist, it can be said to be as strong as steel. Boom. Li Zi's fists swept out, colliding with the fists of these trolls. But what surprised him was that the strength of these trolls was even more terrifying than he expected. Boom. Li Zi's body backed up a dozen steps in a row before it stopped. And these trolls didn't move at all, and the corners of their mouths outlined a playful arc. Ha, human, you are not bad, you can actually block our move. However, this is just the beginning. After finishing speaking, these trolls rushed up again. Li Zi frowned even tighter. He could feel that the power of these trolls was becoming more and more terrifying, and their defense was amazing. Boom. A troll kicked on Li Zi's chest, and his foot directly hit Li Zi's ribs, causing Li Zi's body to fly upside down in an instant and fell to the ground hard. Damn, this guy's strength is really terrifying. And this guy's defense is too abnormal. Li Zi gritted his teeth and scolded. Although he was not injured by the blow just now, he suffered a lot. No, you must leave here quickly, or you will definitely be consumed to death here if you continue. This idea flashed in Li Zi's mind, and then he turned around and prepared to run away. However, at this moment, a big bloody mouth suddenly appeared in front of him, and before he could even react, his whole body directly entered into the opponent's stomach. Li Zi was completely stunned by this sudden scene. Humans, welcome to my electric bag Kejong 1823. At this moment, an extremely gloomy voice came to Li Zi's ears. When he looked down, he saw an extremely huge intestine and stomach. What's the matter? Li Zi said suspiciously. That's right, kid, you don't have to struggle anymore, your body will disappear here soon. The troll guy smiled ferociously. Disappear, hee hee, you think too much. Li Zi shook his head and chuckled. Boom. As soon as Li Zi finished speaking, his entire stomach suddenly shook violently. What happened? The people of the troll clan all showed expressions of astonishment. However, the next second, human, I will tear up your soul and devour your memory. From then on, everything about you will belong to our troll clan. Boom. At this time, another group of trolls rushed over, and their target was Li Zi. Scoff. Just when they were approaching Li Zi, suddenly, Li Zi's figure swayed, his arm turned into a spear and stabbed out, heading straight for the throats of these trolls. Puff. The neck of a troll tribe was pierced, and blood flowed out. Seeing this, several other trolls ran away one after another. Their power increased again, and the power in the circle became stronger. Bang bang bang. Li Zi waved his fist and collided with these troll warriors, and there was a fierce confrontation immediately. Then the two backed away. Whoosh. Li Zi's panting was extremely heavy, his clothes were already in tatters, his body was covered with bruises, and he looked a bit embarrassed. And those guys from the troll tribe are not much better, their bodies are also scarred. Obviously, no one can gain an advantage in this fierce battle. Boy, I didn't expect you to have such a tenacious will. It seems that I underestimated you. One of the trolls said. HMPH, don't talk nonsense, fight if you want to fight. Li Zi said proudly. Hee hee, okay, today I want to see how powerful you really are. Boom. As he said that, the troll clan came over again. HMPH, looking for death. Li Zi narrowed his eyes slightly, raised his palm, bent his 5 fingers, and a terrifying sword light bloomed. Boom. At this moment, a hurricane suddenly blew up around Jiluo. This wind carried a lingering sword intent, as if it wanted to tear apart the space. Whoosh. In the next second, Li Zi's figure suddenly appeared in front of the troll. Immediately, a sharp sword light flashed across the throat of this troll clansman. Hiss. The pupils of that troll clansman contracted suddenly, and then his body slowly fell down. What? When the remaining 3 trolls saw Li Zi's strength, their eyes shone with shock. Damn it, kill him. The remaining 3 troll clansmen roared, and they went to kill Jitu again. But Li Zi was not afraid, but excitedly shouted. Bring it on. Li Zi's figure suddenly jumped out, his speed was as fast as lightning, and he came in front of these troll clansmen in an instant. Bang bang bang. Then Li Zi cast a powerful technique to directly kill these trolls. And their bodies quickly turned into black aura and disappeared. These troll clansmen eventually became Li Zi's soul under the sword. However, at this moment, an even more powerful energy swept over in an instant. This energy made Li Zi feel great oppression and threat. His face changed immediately, and he quickly avoided it. At the same time, he glanced away, and saw a man from the demon race appearing here holding a spear. The other party exuded a terrifying aura, like a peerless martial god. At the moment, the opponent was wearing a black armor, 10 meters tall, wearing a golden iron helmet, and had a fierce face. The whole body exudes a terrifying murderous intent, his eyes are scarlet and bloodthirsty, and his whole body reveals a strong evil spirit. Another fresh soul is delivered to the door. Haha, this time I really made a lot of money. Carrot. The troll clansman laughed wildly, and then he rushed towards Li. Rumbling. Following the opponent's attack, there was a thunderous explosion in the void. The monstrous devilish energy burst out from the opponent, filling the entire area. HMPH, good time. Seeing this troll clansman attacking, Li Zi sneered coldly, and he brandished the long sword in his hand to fight fiercely with the opponent. The monstrous fighting intent was released from the two of them, and they fought together, distorting the void. Boom. Li Zi's long sword slashed down, colliding fiercely with the spear in the opponent's hand, making an ear-piercing roar. Immediately, the troll clansman trembled, and his body was blasted out. Pissed. The troll clansman spat out a mouthful of blood, staining his armor red. Swish. Li Zi's body didn't stop at all, he took advantage of the victory to pursue, and swung the long sword in his hand to chop again. His sword carried a destructive aura, containing a sharp sword intent. It seems to destroy the sky and kill Juyu. Boom. Li Zi's sword landed on this troll clansman, and a monstrous roar and explosion sounded out. In an instant, the body of the troll clansman was blown away. He smashed on several mountain peaks and completely leveled the mountain peaks. Puff. As soon as the troll clansman got up, he couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, his body was shaking, and he almost fell to the ground. Die. Li Zi walked towards the troll tribe with the long sword in his hand. Seeing Li Zi attacking this Dianmo tribe, his eyes were full of seriousness. If you want me to die, you are still too immature. You must know that I am an illusory giant, and you can't resist my offensive at all. After the words fell, he rushed towards the direction where the opponent was standing again, and even more terrifying energy burst out all over his body. There was a crackling sound in the void. The trolls are coming. The troll clansman shouted violently. His body suddenly suspended in midair. As he activated the secret technique, his flesh and blood began to collapse and shatter. Pieces of skin and bones fell off, exposing thick white bones. In the blink of an eye, the troll clansman's body turned into a skeleton. And his body is still metamorphosis at an extremely fast speed. Click. In the blink of an eye, the body of this troll clansman was completely metamorphosis into a skeleton. Immediately, a terrifying aura erupted from the skeleton. The power emanating from his body is several times more terrifying than before. Boy, die. The skeleton opened its mouth and made an eerie sound. In his hand was a spear exuding a terrifying demonic aura. A spear blasted towards Li Zi. Boom. As the troll clansman shot out with a spear. There was a series of explosions in the void. The surrounding air was wiped out inch by inch. This scene is like a doomsday scene. Li Zi's expression changed, and he swung the long sword in his hand to collide with the terrifying shot of the opponent. As a result, after the troll cast the secret technique, his strength soared, and Li Zi was directly pushed back hundreds of meters. Pissed. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Li Zi's mouth, and his face was pale. Immediately, the troll clansman continued to step out. He shot out and appeared in front of Li Zi again. The spear in his hand shot out, trying to pierce Li Zi's chest. I will kill you today, Li Zi shouted solemnly. He swept out with a sword, directly blasting and killing the troll clansman. Boom. With a roar sounded. The attacks of the two bombarded together again, creating a panic. Although this Li Zi's sword forced the troll clansman back, his body trembled. The ground under his feet was forcibly stamped out into a deep pit. Kill. Immediately afterwards, Li Zi shouted word by word. He directly attacked this troll clansman, completely disregarding his own safety. Court death. Seeing Li Zi's crazy attack, the troll clansman looked cold and shouted directly. Boom boom boom. Immediately, the two figures of them fought fiercely together, and there were bursts of clanging and piercing sounds. This Li Zi uses all the power of the spell. he displayed various powerful energies, constantly bombarding and killing the opponent. Break me. At this time, the troll clansman roared. He burst out all his strength and gathered it on the spear in his hand. Boom. With this blow, the void exploded, and the space collapsed and shattered. The terrifying energy spread out, flying Ji Luo's body away. At this time, the troll clansman waved the spear out again. This blow seemed to kill Li Zi directly. Not good. At this moment, Li Zi's expression changed slightly, he thought to himself, and quickly mobilized all his strength to resist. As a result, this blow directly sent Li Zi's body flying. Pissed. Li Zi hit the ground with his body, spraying out a mouthful of blood. He knelt on the ground, his expression extremely ugly. Boy, obey me obediently, or I will kill you tonight. This troll clansman approached Li Zi step by step. He stared at Li Zi with a gloomy gleam in his eyes. Only you? Are you worthy? Li Zi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at the troll clansman and said. Court death. Hearing that Li Zi dared to provoke him, the troll tribe was completely angered. He directly controlled a spear and rushed towards Li Zi, intending to kill her completely. Boom. At this time, a dazzling star suddenly descended and blasted towards the troll clansman. In an instant, the pupils of the troll shrank, and he felt a strong threat of death. Immediately, the troll clansmen directly brandished their weapons to resist. Boom boom boom. In an instant, Li Zi's shooting star directly fought fiercely with this troll clansman. The battle between the two sides was fierce. There was a roaring explosion. The void exploded, turning into a black hole vortex and devouring everything. Boom. Finally, a series of roars sounded. The troll tribe was sent flying by Li Zi's sword. His body hit the ground hard. How come? The troll clansman was lying on the ground, his eyes widened, showing an expression of disbelief. All internal organs in his body were in severe pain, and he was coughing again and again. HMPH. What a mere monster, trying to change his fate against the sky. Li Zi yelled indifferently, and he used medicine step by step towards this giant monster tribe. I am a troll tribe member. If you dare to kill me, the troll tribe will never let you go. The troll clansman looked at Li Zi with a ferocious look and roared. He didn't expect Li Zi's strength to be so terrifying. You think I'm afraid of trolls? Just wait, soon I will send you to hell with my own hands. Li Zi looked at the troll clansman with a cold expression and shouted. Immediately, he inserted his sword into the head of this troll clansman, directly destroying his soul. Damn human boy, dare to kill my troll clan. But at this moment, an angry roar sounded. Suddenly, a terrifying aura swept across the entire ancient forbidden land. A terrifying coercion swept out and enveloped Li Zi, making his breathing extremely heavy. What is this thing? At this moment, Li Zi's complexion changed again and again, and his eyes were shining brightly, staring at the void in the distance. A figure of huge amounts have emerged. This is a huge figure as high as 100 feet. This huge figure stands not far in front of it like Optimus Prime, and the aftermath it exudes is extremely permeating. The huge amounts of pressure instantly changed Li Zi's face, his legs softened, and he knelt directly on the ground. There was a harsh friction sound between his kneecaps and the hard floor. He gritted his teeth and tried his best to resist this terrifying force pressure. Damn it. How can there be such a powerful existence that can completely crush yourself with just physical strength? It's simply impossible. Li Zi was full of shock and doubts. Could it be that he really had to be slaughtered by others and become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered on the cutting board? No. I will never allow such a thing to happen. Even if I risk my life, I must keep my dignity. Damn it. Li Zi roared furiously. The skin all over his body burst suddenly, and blood sprayed out, making him look extremely ferocious, like a demon who came out of hell. Boom. Immediately, Li Zi stood up to resist, stepped on the solid ground with one foot, ejected his whole body, and slammed his fist into the paw of the huge troll in the sky. The waves rolled and swept all directions. Boom. Li Zi stepped back tens of meters in a row before he stabilized his figure. There were traces of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth, obviously injured. However, he did not have the slightest fear. He stared at the huge body in front of him with scorching eyes, and shouted with great enthusiasm. It's really surprising. I didn't expect to meet such a powerful giant here. If so, today let's have a good fight with you. Roar. The troll roared, his eyes were extremely cold, it slowly raised its huge amounts of paws, stomped on Li Zi fiercely, and said at the same time, you lowly ant, You are just food in my eyes, and you are trying to provoke Li Zi in vain. To me, do you really think that I am made of mud? Boom. Every time the troll man took a step forward, the ground would tremble violently, and the huge body gave people a suffocating pressure, making people breathless. Boom. Every time he took a step, the troll man's footprints would sink deep into the ground, and the surrounding stones would also be crushed and turned into powder and dissipated. It can be seen how terrifying the power of this huge body is. Li Zi's pupils contracted, but a crazy smile appeared on his face. At this moment, he had already decided to fight this terrifying troll. Although he knew that he was definitely not the opponent of the troll, Li Zi still didn't back down, because he knew that if he was timid, his final death would be to be swallowed alive by this troll. Therefore, there is only one fight: kill. Li Zi roared angrily, his figure rushed up quickly, and a pair of iron fists smashed towards the troll man's head with a ferocious aura. Once hit, it was enough to blow the troll man's head off. Court death. The troll roared, and its body suddenly accelerated, like an arrow leaving the string. It rushed towards Li Zi with a strong wind. Li Zi was startled. He never expected that this terrifying figure would know how to cooperate with his attack, and the speed was extremely fast. All of this was beyond Li Zi's cognition, and caught him off guard. Boom. The troll man slapped Li Zi's chest with a terrifying aura of destroying everything. The huge amounts of palm seemed to cover the entire sky, making one's heart palpitate, and he even stopped breathing. Pissed. Li Zi's chest sank directly, a scarlet mark spread to his neck, and blood continued to flow out of his mouth. Click. The sound of bones shattering kept coming. Li Zi's ribs broke countless times, and his body flew upside down and fell heavily on the ground. Li Zi smiled miserably. He looked up at the haughty figure in the midair, and a touch of hatred rose in his heart. You beast. Kill me if you have the guts, otherwise I will kill you with my own hands and kill you. Take out the internal organs of the dog and feed it to the dogs, so that you will die without a place to bury you. Jia, Jia, Jia. You were really arrogant, an ant. Hearing Li Zi's resentful words, the troll was furious. This ant was already seriously injured, but it dared to insult itself. It was looking for death. The troll let out a low growl, and its huge body swooped down suddenly. Huge amounts of sharp claws ruthlessly grabbed at Li Zi. The sharp claws shone with a dark white cold light. If Li Zi was caught by this move, enough to make Li Zi's head of household different. Snort. Li Zi snorted coldly, trying to endure the pain. He waved his right hand lightly, and a flame shot out from his hand, burning rapidly, and finally turned into a fiery sword. Go to hell. Li Zi jumped up and slashed at the troll man with a long flaming sword in his hand. Immediately, dark golden flames filled the entire space, covering the troll man. The troll man suddenly withdrew its claws that were about to grab Li Zi. Its brows were tightly frowned, showing a dignified look. What is this? Zzz. Li Zi's flames continued to erode the troll's fur, and there was a sound of sizzling. The troll screamed in pain, and retreated constantly, but Li Zi would not let him go. I saw him leaping forward. His whole body was like a ghost, erratic. In the blink of an eye, he came to the troll man, swept away with a sword. The flaming long sword contained a terrible temperature. Wherever he passed, the air all distorted, producing a trace of ripples. The troll's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly raised his other arm to block Li Zi's flaming long sword. Boom. The troll only felt his right arm go numb, and a huge amount of force struck him, which made him take 2 steps back, which made him feel a little surprised that a mere ant could hurt him. Roar. The troll let out an irritable roar, and then his body suddenly rose a few points. His huge body stood on the ground like a mountain. Ants, go to hell. The troll roared, and its body fell towards Li Zi like a cannonball. This time, he not only used his claws, but also displayed his best skills, slapping Li Zi fiercely with his claws. Li Zi. Boom. Li Zi's chest was slapped by the troll man's paw, and his chest collapsed instantly. His body moved a few steps to the side involuntarily. The troll man's sharp claws fell again. Li Zi gritted his teeth, endured the severe pain, and made another slash, cutting off one of the troll man's legs. Roar. The troll screamed in pain, his huge body shook, and almost fell off the ground. But Li Zi didn't let him go, and in a flash, he went straight to the troll's forehead. The flaming long sword in his hand burst into bright light, stabbing fiercely at the troll's forehead. Roar. The troll man let out an angry growl, and it raised its other sharp claw to face Li Zi. For a while, sparks splattered and sparks radiated. The troll man was slightly stunned, and then he became unstable and almost fell to the ground. Boom. Li Zi took the opportunity to kick the troll man in the abdomen, and the troll man's stomach sank in directly, his body backed up involuntarily, and then fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Ahem. Li Zi coughed violently, coughing up a large amount of blood from his mouth. His body lay limp on the ground, his face extremely pale. The blow just now had exhausted all his strength. Li Zi raised his head with difficulty, looked at the weak trollman, showed a trace of sarcasm, and said mockingly, "Hee hee, trollman, how about it? I said I must kill you today." Roar. The troll raised its head to the sky and roared. Its face was full of anger and hatred, obviously completely angered by Li Zi. Li Zi grinned and said, "Ha ha ha, troll man, don't struggle, just die obediently, I promise, I will definitely leave you a complete corpse." Whoosh. Before Li Zi finished speaking, the troll suddenly moved. Its huge body turned into a phantom, and it rushed towards Li Zi. Its sharp claws tore through the air, making ear-piercing friction sounds. Li Zi's eyes instantly became dignified, and his figure involuntarily retreated. He knew very well that the strength of the troll was far beyond what he could compete with. Damn it, have I exhausted my strength? Even the speed of avoiding the trolls has slowed down. Li Zi was extremely anxious. But at the moment it was too late, the troll man's sharp claws were already close to his body. At the critical moment, Li Zi was taken aback for a moment, and then a ferocious smile appeared on his face. "Since you want to play, the gentleman will accompany you to the end." Shua. A bright silver light magnified in the trollman's eyes, and then the trollman felt a chill in his chest. He stretched out his left paw and touched his chest, dripping with blood. It looked down at its own chest. A dagger pierced its skin, penetrated into its chest, and the bright red blood dripped down its chest onto the ground. The trollman's eyes were full of puzzlement and shock, as if he couldn't figure out how Li Zi did it. Li Zi's figure slowly descended from midair. His mouth was slightly stained with blood, his face was pale, and his body was even more precarious. Although he killed the trollman, he paid an extremely heavy price. His body was already on the verge of collapse. If he continued to fight, he would definitely explode and die. But Li Zi doesn't regret it, because if it were someone else, he would have died long ago, and only he can survive, so he has no choice. From the palm of his hand, he transformed the sword of Emperor Weishan. The blade was cold and radiating a breathtaking light. He stared at the troll, and held the sword tightly with both hands. "Go to hell, it's over." Li Zi roared wildly, turned his wrist slightly, and the blade drew a beautiful arc, slashing towards the trollman's neck. At this time, the troll also reacted. Its pupils reflected the blade. It let out a mournful cry, trembled all over, and closed its eyes unwillingly. There was too much unwillingness in its heart, but everything was over. Bang. The troll's body hit the ground fiercely, causing cracks to appear on the ground. "Go to hell, it's over." Li Zi roared wildly, turned his wrist slightly, and the blade drew a beautiful arc, slashing towards the trollman's neck. At this time, the troll also reacted. Its pupils reflected the dagger. It let out a mournful cry, trembled all over, and closed its eyes unwillingly. There was too much unwillingness in its heart, but everything was over. Bang. The troll's body hit the ground fiercely, causing cracks to appear on the ground. But at this moment, the sword blade had already pierced the trollman's throat, and blood spewed out, staining the whole world red. Ha ha. Li Zi looked up to the sky and smiled, as if he was about to explode all the suppressed emotions in his chest. He looked at the corpse of the trollman lying on the ground, showing a ferocious expression. "You are finally dead don't you? Don't you think it's ridiculous?" However, at this moment, suddenly, the slain troll opened his eyes suddenly. A strange expression appeared on his face. A cruel sneer was drawn on the corner of his mouth, and the scarlet tongue stuck out. It licked a circle on its lips, and then it struggled hard and got up from the ground. What? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Li Zi's pupils suddenly shrank. So unbelievable. Damn. This guy is not dead. Li Zi's heart was beating wildly, and he quickly dodged to the side. His sword blade just scratched the troll's skin, and the opponent was not fatally injured. Jia. Human, you are very powerful, but I will not let you escape. The troll grinned strangely, and it was extremely fast, and it directly rushed towards Li Zi. Sharp his claws directly grabbed Li Zi's neck. Damn it. Get the hell out of here. Li Zi yelled, flipped his wrist, swung the blade again, and slashed at the troll's arm. Sparks flew all over the place, but it couldn't stop the troll's forward pace at all. It threw Li Zi flying. Then, he opened his huge mouth full of fangs and wanted to bite on Li Long's shoulder. Fortunately, he dodged in time, otherwise he would have been completely injured by that hit just now. It would be great if I could eat your flesh, but it's a pity. The troll licked the blood on his mouth, showing his white teeth, and sneered. I don't believe your strength can be improved. Li Zi let out a low cry, stomped his feet, and retreated violently. At the same time, he raised his right hand, unsheathed the blade of his sword, and shot towards the beholder. Pissed. The blade pierced through the trollman's abdomen, leaving a transparent hole. However, this kind of attack is nothing to the troll with a strength of 200,000 jin, it just slightly affected its actions. Jia Jia Jia. Your strength is too weak, just like an ant. The trollman's tone became even colder. It stepped forward, and with every step, the ground shook. Its momentum became more and more powerful, and finally reached its peak. Damn it. Li Zi felt a strong sense of crisis, and he knew that he had to do something. Looks like I have to give it a go. After Li Zi finished speaking, his eyes froze, his right fist was clenched suddenly, his body suddenly rose into the air, and then slammed into the trollman fiercely. Boom. The power of Li Zi's punch was so powerful that it directly staggered the troll back. However, the trollman only paused for a second, then stabilized his figure, and continued to chase after Li Zi. Moreover, the aura of the troll has climbed to the peak at the moment. Damn it. Li Zi's face was extremely ugly. He originally thought that he could turn the situation around after improving his strength to a certain extent, but he was wrong. The troll's combat power was still stronger than him, and the opponent still maintained its peak combat power. Jia Jia Jia. Human beings, I will tear you into pieces by the dozen. The troll smiled strangely, it suddenly raised its right arm, and then flung it out fiercely. Call. A gust of wind blows past. Li Zi tried his best to avoid it, but one of his arms was still scratched by the strong wind, and blood flowed down. Damn thing, today, either you die, or I die. Li Zi said angrily, his figure suddenly rose up, holding the blade of the sword with both hands, and shot towards the opponent suddenly. Scoff. A scarlet color blooms. Is this the only strength? Or am I thinking too highly of you? The troll stood in the distance, looked at Li Zi who was not far away, shook his head twice, his eyes were mocking. You humble ant, don't you want to fight with me? Why don't you continue? Hee hee. The troll sneered, and said slowly, since you don't dare to work hard, then obediently be eaten by me. Drop it. There was a playful look in the trollman's eyes, it seemed that Li Zi must die, so it didn't leave in a hurry, but approached slowly, ready to enjoy the food. Li Zi panted heavily, staring at the trollman, his eyes were burning with hatred. Beast. I will kill you. Want to use this to attack the opponent. However, the next second, the troll finally came to his senses, his eyes showed a ferocious look, and he roared. Stupid guy. Do you think you succeeded in sneak attack? You don't even know who I am. I'm a troll, an extremely terrifying existence, you simply cannot defeat it. So what if it's scary? Today, I'm going to chop off your bedbug. After finishing speaking, Li Zi's figure suddenly jumped up, and his whole body was like a cannonball, slamming into the trollman viciously. Hee hee, courting death. The troll sneered, and also rushed over. The distance between the two was originally less than 10 meters, so in the next second, Li Zi's blade cut through the troll's hard and thick skin, and pierced into his chest. However, at this time, a sudden change occurred. Roar. The troll opened his mouth, and suddenly let out a roar. This time, the violent airwave almost blows away the surrounding grass. And this time, Li Zi's figure was also blown away. His clothes were torn in many places, and his whole body was in severe pain. However, this kind of pain made Li Zi's mind instantly sober. Ha ha ha. The troll laughed wildly. I've been patient with you for a long time. I wanted to tear you apart a long time ago. Our family has lived in this illusion for thousands of years. Do you think that with a waste like you can to destroy our civilization? What a wishful thinking. However, your courage and perseverance are indeed beyond my expectations, but don't worry, I will eat you and eat you as my nourishment. As he said that, the troll pounced on him again. You are really whimsical. Seeing this, Li Zi gritted his teeth, kicked his legs on the ground, and shot towards the trollman like an arrow. Bang bang bang. The two exchanged several moves in an instant. However, since Li Zi originally was at a disadvantage, he was the first to lose every time they fought. Damn bastard. You idiot. Li Zi scolded. He knew that at such a time, as long as he constantly output power, Even if he only temporarily gained the upper hand, then it is possible to create a miracle and turn the world around. However, these ideas are destined to be extravagant hopes. After attacking hundreds of strokes in a row, Li Zi was exhausted, his strength was exhausted, his whole body was sore and limp, and he couldn't lift any more strength. Go to hell. The troll's entire figure rushed toward the opponent, almost a black light. Go to hell. Li Zi's right knee slammed into the troll man's stomach. Boom. The fire is soaring. The troll was caught off guard and was blown away. Moreover, his body has turned into coke. No, it's impossible, it's absolutely impossible. The troll uttered an extremely angry roar. Then, he supported the ground with his only remaining arm, got up with difficulty, and staggered towards the distance. This guy's vitality is too tenacious. Even if his body is blown up like this, he still has the strength to escape. However, the firelight released by Li Zi has spread and enveloped this guy. Help. What's going on here? Howling constantly, the trollman tried to extinguish the flames, only to grow stronger. In the end, the fire spread all over his body and burned him alive. Huh. It's really dangerous. Li Zi gasped heavily, lying on the spot, panting heavily, the sewage trickled down his forehead. Everything he just did was a gamble. Li Zi doesn't believe in this evil. Fortunately, he won the bet. The temperature of that flame was extremely high, even though the troll man's physical quality was extremely strong, but he still couldn't bear the burn, and was directly burned to death. After a short rest, Li Zi took a deep breath, and the magic of creation emerged, like a sacred flower blooming in the darkness, turning all the surrounding darkness into light. Also at this time, because of the intervention of the creation magic, Li Zi was able to completely and clearly feel the warmth brought by this energy. Especially the firelight inside makes these own energies extremely soft. Fortunately, after several efforts, these so-called creation magics can finally come in handy at this moment. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to recover from the current injury. Since this is the case, I have to inject these energies into it in advance. The strength of these trolls is stronger than that of the demons. It seems that my strength is still far from being the strongest. Thinking of this, a very determined look flickered in Li Zi's eyes, as if he was thinking of some other way. But there is no way, after all. If Thor and the others are allowed to stay, it is estimated that the whole situation will become even more complicated. Just talking about my own words, at least to some extent, I can still deal with it by force. Without thinking too much, Li Zi immediately took action. He diffused all the energy contained in it, and after that, endless black aura gushed out, enveloping it instantly. For a while, an extremely dazzling light curtain flickered between the sky and the earth, and the entire sky became extremely dazzling, as if a wave of extremely powerful energy surged wildly and wantonly in the space, and even everything around was covered by this energy. Swept up. Countless strands of gathered energy flowed into his body like starbursts, emitting endless brilliance immediately, as if to illuminate everything in the world a lot. However, at this moment, an endless commotion came from below, and the sound was extremely violent, as if some kind of terrifying existence wanted to break out of the ground. Li Zi noticed the abnormality immediately, frowned slightly, and looked straight in the direction of what happened. Suddenly at this time, boom! A dark and thin figure was reflected in Li Zi's eyes. It was so eye-catching, as if it was the only flickering light spot in the crowd, and no one felt the slightest abnormality. Could it be another new troll race? Thinking of this, Li Zi didn't relax too much, because he couldn't relax at all about things like this, because once he relaxed, if he wanted to really compete against the opponent, he must be in the worst situation. Because of this, at this moment, he has no real intention of relaxing. Humans, you kill my trolls and think you are strong? Suddenly, that dark and thin figure slowly floated in the air, and spoke in a very indifferent manner. That tone and posture were more like a god-man judging him in the sky. There was no emotion between his lips and teeth. What the hell are you? Li Zi frowned and couldn't help asking. Although the breath the other party gave him was not that terrifying, even in this environment, he still didn't dare to be too careless. The more the other party maintained a sense of mystery, the more vigilant he felt. Human beings, you can call me Jing. I am the most powerful of the troll race. If you don't kneel when you see me, the only situation you will face is death. Jing said slowly again. His tone was incomparably indifferent and cold, as if it could make people feel palpitations and uneasiness in the ice cave tens of degrees below zero. Hee, the strongest. Li Zi shook his head. So what? Hearing Li Zi's words, the Xian Jing was obviously very angry, and his voice suddenly raised several decibels. "Human, you are too courageous. I'd like to see if you dare to speak like this after you see how powerful I am." As he said that, the arms of the strongest man suddenly stretched out, and his hands covered with skeletal lines actually pierced through the thick fog and grabbed towards Li Zi. This sight is simply terrifying. If it were an ordinary person, he would have been frightened and stupid. However, for Li Zi, he didn't have any fear at all, and instead showed a smile. "It's been a long time since I met such an interesting guy." There was a cruel arc on the corner of Li Zi's mouth. "I don't know what will happen if I kill you in battle?" Then, he clenched his fist directly. Boom. A muffled sound spread all over the field. Li Zi's fist slammed hard on the chest of the strongest man Jing. In an instant, blood spattered. The chest of the most powerful mirror is sunken directly. However, due to his thin body, Li Zi did not kill the opponent in one fell swoop, but just knocked him back a few steps. This sight is simply terrifying. If it were an ordinary person, he would have been frightened and stupid. However, for Li Zi, he didn't have any fear at all, and instead showed a smile. "It's been a long time since I met such an interesting guy." There was a cruel arc on the corner of Li Zi's mouth. "I don't know what will happen if I kill you in battle?" Then, he clenched his fist directly. Boom. A muffled sound spread all over the field. Li Zi's fist slammed hard on the chest of the strongest man Jing. Instantly, while the flowers splash, the chest of the most powerful mirror is sunken directly. However, due to his thin body, Li Zi did not kill the opponent in one fell swoop, but just knocked him back a few steps. Seeing this, Xian Jing recharged his power, gathered endless energy in his palm, and blasted towards Li Zi with all his strength. The moment he punches, there was a violent tremor in the air, and the space appeared distorted and broken. A terrifying gust of wind raged, and the airflow visible to the naked eye was rippling, spinning around and around. Even the land on the ground cracked, and the rock layer set off layer after layer of rock seas. Seeing this, Li Zi didn't panic at all, and dodged sideways, his fists wrapped in a biting gust of wind blowing towards his face. The Xian mirror went straight to nothing. A punch hit the ground, making a huge amount of deep pit, and the huge amounts of impact almost broke the ground. The entire ground collapsed several meters deep in an instant. Huge amounts of roar resounded through the heaven and earth, echoing like a dragon. Roar. The boundless blue sky, which was supposed to be full of sunlight, now fell into a gloomy and oppressive moment. The blow just now seemed to have shattered the sky and the earth, and the terrifying impact broke through the sky, as if penetrating the foundation of the entire planet. "You are so whimsical." Li Zi gritted his teeth, and shot towards the enemy like an arrow. Bang bang bang. Seeing his speed so fast, the enemy couldn't parry him for a while. Coupled with the fact that Li Zi's physical strength was at an advantage, Xian Jing couldn't keep up with the rhythm at all. He was hit several times in a row, and he was the first to lose in several head-to-head confrontations. Damn fool. The Xian mirror knows very well that losing is a disadvantage in terms of strength. Moreover, after attacking hundreds of strokes in a row, he was gradually exhausted, his strength was exhausted, his whole body was sore and weak, and he couldn't lift any more strength. "Damn, I'm dead." Seeing this, Li Zi didn't hold back his hand anymore, and a long sword was condensed in his left hand. The long sword reflected a terrifying aura, spreading and wreaking havoc outward. The moment the breath was released, the face of the enemy suddenly changed. Because that seemingly ordinary long sword actually made him feel the breath of death. The moment Li Zi transformed into a long sword, he radiated wisps of raging killing intent, instantly suppressing everything around him. How can it be? The face of the most powerful mirror changed suddenly, and he felt extremely fearful in his heart. This is something he has never seen before. This force seems to be in an endless abyss, and the surroundings are extremely dark and lifeless. He couldn't see any hope of survival, and the long sword hadn't been swung yet. It was as if it was already on his neck, and the sharp long sword seemed to open his throat in the next second. For a moment, his face was pale. A chill spread from the soles of the feet to the top of the head, and the back was soaked with sweat. He was terrified. I wanted to turn around and leave, but it was too late. Because at the moment, the long sword in Li Zi's hand has already been swung out, condensing a terrifying whirlwind, heading straight for the head of the most powerful mirror. For a moment, the space instantly presents an unbelievable twisted and broken shape. Like shattered glass fragments, scattered all over the ground. Next second, the space is completely shattered, directly turning into countless fragments and splashing. Collapsed. The whole world seemed to be disintegrating in an instant, and there were only endless fragments on the ground. The rest see nothing. The ground under his feet is also crumbling. A pitch-black void appeared in the crack, when the terrifying long sword, wrapped in terrifying sword energy, waved with an infinite breath. The body of the most powerful mirror is also broken at this moment. His flesh and blood turned into blood mist. It evaporated again under the scorching sword energy, and the building drifted away with the wind. It's all over. Li Zi put away his long sword and took a long, deep breath. Then he flew away, left here, and returned to Norway on Earth, God's domain. And at the moment, Wanda has long been waiting in God's domain. Thor also waited here for a long time. Seeing him come back, Shenyu specially held a celebration banquet for him. After the celebration banquet is over, Li Zi told the people of Shenyu that from now on, he will not participate in any missions and will retire from now on. Because he is really tired, traveling through Marvel for 20 or 30 years, he has spent almost every day in danger. Go through so much now. It is also time to disarm and return to the fields, to live the life that ordinary people should have. Live in seclusion on Earth, or other peaceful Earths. No longer involved in any major events, and no longer need to worry about the multi-universe crisis. The people of Shenyu understand this. In the end, it was Thor who saw Li Zi and Wanda off, and called Star-Lord to take them to a star ball that is indisputable in the world. There hasn't been any war on this planet for thousands of years. Because it is a transit point for many gods and the Predator Legion. No one dares to make trouble here, and anyone who makes trouble here will not end well. So, Li Zi was introduced by Xingju. Opened a collectible shop on this planet. From now on, live a peaceful ending. Li Zi finally lived the life he wanted. He wanted to live a peaceful life with Wanda without fighting with the world. Fortunately, after so many hardships, the troubles have finally been cleared away. There will be no more events affecting him, no more Thanos, no more crises from the multi-universe. He disarmed and returned to the field, no longer in contact with the outside world.